It's like one of my bucket list items is to do a hot air balloon trip. I've
There you
always
go.
wanted to.
Why?
What's actually going to happen is a Wizard of Oz thing is going to happen.
Yes. You hit your head and imagine you spent an entire frightening journey through a foreign world.
It's the opposite of Wizard of Oz. You get just sent to Kansas, and
You get
That's
sent to
where
a
I
boring
stay.
land
There's-
where nothing happens
I don't have any magic
Hey.
shoes.
except
we
basketball.
love all of you in Kansas.
Thank you for making me incredibly uncomfortable.
That's your fault.
No, it's not.
You just called him
Yeah.
baby.
Welcome back to the Jack of the Shadows podcast, season 2, episode 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm Eric VC, and as always, I'm joined by my favorite Kukla and Ollie, Dave and Adam. Together, we're the VC
What?
boys.
On Earth.
Say hello,
what?
Dave.
On
I don't-
Earth is
I
that.
guess I'm
Also, you
Ollie
didn't
'cause
get
I don't
your
wanna be
hands
that
up,
other
and all I
thing.
can see is
Baxter, you know I don't
Kukla
speak
and
Spanish.
Ollie.
What's
You've
that?
never heard of Kukla, Fran, and Ollie?
I'm fairly certain no one ever cared about Kukla.
Well,
Who's
Kukla was
Fran
the
and
other
Ollie?
puppet than Ollie.
Who's Fran and Ollie?
This is a puppet show from the 50s.
They're no Topo Gigio.
Oh, they're way better than
There
Topo
you go.
Gigio.
I don't think so.
That
As you
is
can imagine,
just-
Kukla
that
is
so
one
esoteric.
crazy-looking puppet.
That is
For this episode, we
Kukla.
read Lord of Chaos, chapters 13 through 18. We'll start this episode, as always, with a review of what we read and View from Dragonmount before moving on to History Repeats, where we'll talk about Rand's school and what it means, along with what he learned from Herod Fell, and also
Herod
what we
stood up.
learned of Rand's history. Next, we'll discuss where we are at with the intent of our characters and those around them and what's my motivation before wrapping up with our Copland of the week and who leveled up.
I like Dave's Herod stood up though.
Right,
That was,
thank
that
you,
was
thank
a little
you.
nice. There was a little nice sprinkling of some
I seasoned it.
spices.
I threw a little seasoning in there.
So without further ado, let's jump into our hot air balloon and sail to the top of Dragonmount so that we can review our chapters for this week. Apparently, hot air balloon is funny.
It was. I got to give credit
This
where
is-
it's due.
this
I
is
guess.
true.
Come on, get into the hot air.
I haven't used antiquated
You've never
technology
flown it
yet to get to the
before.
top
You
of
will be the
Dragonmount.
first.
All right, so let's start with chapter 13, Under the Dust. Chapter 13 opens with Theodrin's efforts to break Nynaeve of her block. Apparently, Theodrin has dumped a bucket of water on Nynaeve, who quickly retaliated with a strike to Theodrin's eye. This blow was followed by one from Theodrin to Nynaeve's jaw. The two keep at it, not fighting, but trying to break Nynaeve's block. Nynaeve has found someone as stubborn as she is, apparently. She returns to her room without success and sees Elaine in bed, staring at the ceiling. Elaine has returned from trying to teach Esmeralda, Dagdara, and Verilyn to make Terangrial without success and nearly killing Verilyn.
That was a really well pronounced, enunciated sentence, Eric.
Elaine continues to complain about her day, mentioning that Moghedien had suggested they all go to Camelin. This led Elaine to sending the Forsaken to bed. Apparently, she doesn't dig the idea of a Forsaken being somewhere within close proximity of Rand. Anybody else think that that's a bad idea?
Mayhaps.
You know who didn't think it was a bad idea? Nynaeve!
Right. Not surprising, really.
After more complaints from Elaine, Nynaeve yells out that she did consider that this is a wise course of action. Elaine makes it clear she doesn't wish to leave until at least Tom returns from Terabon somewhere.
Yeah, those guys have been missing for
Or
a
is he in
long
Ara
time.
Daman? Where are they?
They're scouting
really
out the
miss
White Cloaks,
Tom.
I think.
Yeah, well that would be Amadisha then.
yeah.
Oh, dummy boy.
Yep.
I'm fairly certain they're not in Ireland, but I could
Elaine
be
is
mistaken.
calling.
The boys are waiting.
Before the two can discuss the
Mhm.
idea farther, Tarna Fair enters the room. Tarna was not told Elaine was in the camp, but has followed rumors. The only way news gets around in this world. She mentions that Elida is searching for Elaine and requests Elaine to return with her to Tarvalon. Elaine refuses to leave, and then Tarna requests Elaine leave, and she and Nynaeve are alone. During their private conversation, Tarna mentions she had her block broken by Galena Casman, who we learned in the prologue is the head of the Red Aja.
Do we know what we're about to say, what you're about to say yet?
Is she a Black Aja?
Right.
She is a Black Aja, right?
Well,
In
she's
the
Captain Poopy
prologue.
Pants then.
Right, yeah. Tarna tries to sweeten her disposition and convince Nynaeve to tell her what she knows of Rand.
The disposition. What a show.
She goes on to request that Nynaeve also return to Tarvalon with her.
Every time you say a word strangely like Valan instead of Tarvalon, I'm going to start pronouncing other words very strangely.
I would like this to
Strangely,
happen.
you mean?
Sure.
You're
yes.
on record.
Strangely.
Nynaeve refuses both requests, and Fair asks her to think on it longer before the Red Sister leaves. Nynaeve ponders how knowledgeable Tarna is on the inhabitants of Saladar and then heads out to find Elaine. She thinks that Tarna Fair probably has spies somewhere in Saladar.
I like how she brings that up and she doesn't mention it at all. Like every time someone,
Yeah.
like in another one of these chapters, someone mentions, "Oh, you must have spies somewhere," and they all just completely pass over.
Oh, no.
the
Well,
idea.
she does. No,
There are
she
a couple
doesn't. She
times
doesn't
that
actually mention it to Tarna. She just thinks that to herself. Nynaeve returns to her room empty-handed, only to discover Elaine newly arrived as well. Elaine has collected 2 dreaming rings and tells Nynaeve she's resolved to stay in Saladar. She's convinced that without their presence, Tower 2 will rejoin Tower 1, which the news that they've heard as to how Tower 2 is dealing with Tower 1 leads her to fear. The princess has further decided that they will use a trick in Tel'aran'rhiod she learned from the Wise Ones. It's possible for the thought of something needed to guide them toward an object in Tel'aran'rhiod, and then she thinks that they can use the need to convince Tower 2 to follow Rand or to join up with Rand to find something important in the world of dreams.
How is Tower 1 and Tower 2? How are they communicating?
Well, Tarna Fair is
Pigeons,
there.
probably.
No. Tarna Fair is there from Tower 1.
Right, she's there right now, but you just mean in
Yeah.
general, Adam, or you mean at this moment?
I meant before that.
No, they
Because
weren't. They weren't communicating. Remember,
really.
they were ostensibly in hiding
Unless the spies
Yeah.
were,
in a
you know,
secret location, which
Yeah.
everybody
It
knows
was-
about.
That was secret for about 2 minutes.
Was secret for several chapters and
Right.
not anymore.
however long those several chapters are. And what I was going to say was, this is pretty good thought control on the parts of Nynaeve and Elaine, because both those two are constantly thinking about Rand, and
Lan,
What's
the
his
person that
face?
rhymes with Rand.
they're running through
How
their
dare-
brains like
how
all the
dare
time.
you.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very easy for Need to slip into those two guys.
Oddly enough, it hasn't yet.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
impressed at the fact that, like, that didn't happen. Like,
Mm.
that would have been a funny moment.
It has, though, because on occasion, Lan's ring around Nynaeve's neck has appeared on her unwanted when she's been in Tel'aran'rhiod.
Right, but that's slightly different than going to that
Right.
object.
Well, they haven't really traveled at all.
But this
using
would have been a
thought.
chapter where he could have thrown something like that in as a kind of
It just
either
happened.
red herring or a humorous,
That would have been kind of
you
cool
know,
if it had just happened.
right,
and they
one of the
weren't sure.
two, and one of the two getting really ticked off at the other one, being like, "Would you
How
control
did
your thoughts
how
already?"
did you- well, I don't think that they would have dragged
It
the
would have been
other
funny.
one. I don't think
I
they would have
think that-
dragged the other one. They would have just taken themselves.
Well, weren't they holding hands?
Well, that's different, right? If they're holding hands, but they're not in the habit of holding hands in Tel'aran'rhiod. That would be kind of weird if every time they were there, they were holding hands with each other.
That sounds like a
They're being
class
led by a
today.
teacher who's like, now
They're
children,
not in the habit of holding hands
remember while we're here at the
Tel'aran'rhiod.
museum, everybody has to hold hands. Find your partner.
I mean,
Maybe they should hold hands more.
I'm just saying.
Nynaeve could actually get some power from some folks, maybe if she held hands with them.
So Nynaeve agrees to this idea of Elaine's on the condition that if they don't find anything, that they will leave for Camelin. So she agrees on the conditions
Yeah.
that they adopt Moghedien's plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
it's wild.
As night falls, the tower feasts Tarna Fair, who leaves for Tarvalon in the morning. Nynaeve and Elaine go to bed and enter the
Tarvalon.
world
Dave,
of
you
dreams
said
and
it
begin
again.
their
Where's
search.
your word?
On their first attempt to use
Whatever.
Need to guide them, they ended up in a dilapidated Tarvalon near where Nynaeve had seen Lyanna last time they were in the dream world. And then the next use of it takes them into the tower where Elaine briefly sees someone she thinks is Egwene. They think of their need
Yeah, that
again.
seems like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we find out later it is Egwene, so it's not really that big of a deal. They think of Need again and end up in a ter'angreal storeroom. There are too many objects in their immediate vicinity, so they try to find a ter'angreal elsewhere that will help Rand.
We've dealt with these it's not a flicker that they're dealing with here
No,
in
it's
their
different.
dreams. It's a flick, but
It's more of a skip.
I noticed that too. Yes.
It's not the
flick,
flicker, the
It
evil
does.
weird
It does
flicker
say
from
flick.
before.
It does say flick,
says
and this is
flick,
the first
and it
time that
just
this idea is being used, and it is very similar to the flickers that Rand experienced when he was swarmed by flies in that room, which we've
And there was another
constantly.
one.
There was one other one that was
There-
similar. Yeah. Good catch, Adam.
But that had something to do with
Make sure
that
you
was a
Wasn't that
bubble
the-
of evil though. That wasn't
Yeah,
in
I think
that wasn't
I
in the
think that-
dream world.
No, it's not.
I don't. We got into it when it first occurred. I mean, we delved through this material several times. There's a
I just
similarity
think
here,
it's
but like the
interesting
other,
that
like the
yeah.
previous similarity, there are also major differences, which almost renders each of these unique instances.
Sure, but it's two letters off of.
Right, yeah,
flicker,
yeah.
flick.
The next journey that they use Need for takes them to a strange city filled with white buildings, pointed arches, and paved canals. So then they travel to a slum, and then they enter another storeroom, and after a couple of more attempts, they discover a 2-foot wide shallow crystal bowl that Elaine believes is a terangrial to control weather.
Yeah.
Just what they need to sway Tower 2. What does controlling the weather have to do with Rand and Tower 2?
We don't know.
No idea.
On the surface, does it seem to have anything to do with them? It's just weird because it doesn't seem to have anything to do with it. After leaving the building that contained the storeroom, they wander around looking for a landmark to indicate their location. They don't find one, but Elaine has seen enough to conclude that they're in Ibu Dar, which we've certainly heard of before, but this is our first time, actually being in the city itself.
I love that she just knows it though. She's
I
like,
mean,
yeah.
she had to study a lot of geography when she was in princess school.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
At this point, they can't really identify the location of the storeroom with the crystal bowl, but determined to sail down the Eldar to Ibu Dar sooner or later. Sooner, preferably. Before we wrap up this chapter, that initial storeroom that they were in,
Yeah.
did it have another bowl that controls the weather in it?
Maybe this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, or what I was bringing up about the whole Rand thing. And maybe they just hadn't refined their thoughts enough about what they needed. So maybe in that storeroom, there's something else that they need or could potentially be useful to them, and we don't know what it is. So maybe they just hadn't thought hard enough, if you will.
All that they changed from one location to the other was they actually thought they needed something that would help Rand that wasn't in the tower. That's the only thing that they changed.
So then I wouldn't say there'd be another bowl. I might say there might be something else that could help something, but not necessarily Rand.
So then this would mean that there are several things out there that can help Rand. This just happens to be one. And it seems to be a fairly obscure way to help Rand. I mean, a relatively,
Weather?
at least from where we're at right now, a relatively indirect way to help Rand. Yeah, the weather.
I don't think so. We're already dealing with the fact that people can't grow crops. If you could control the weather, you might be able to grow crops.
Yeah, I needed to go a step farther. Of course it can help Rand, but how it helps the tower or Tower 2 help Rand, I don't see. I can absolutely see the general application, but how it brings Tower 2 closer to helping Rand, that I don't get at all. It's a weird connection for me. Which takes us to chapter 14, Dreams and Nightmares.
Here we go.
So chapter 14 joins Egwene, who's just been seen by Elaine and Tel'aran'rhiod inside the White Tower. Egwene quickly jumps to the Tel'aran'rhiod change pocket.
Why do we think
Yes.
Elaine was in the Elaine and Egwene, Rand and Lan?
Right, yes.
Come on, Jordan. Why do we think Egwene was in the tower to begin with?
This is
she
actually
spying
in
on
the
Elaida
narration.
also?
She goes to the tower to gather information, and there's something about
What type of information?
she frequently sees people there to just
Yeah.
kind of see who is in the area and what's going on, I think. And also, I got to believe that, I mean, she knows where Elaida's study is, So, yeah, I would imagine she's probably up there, but she also has to be aware at this point that the Tower 2 cadre goes there frequently. So she's got to be really careful about how frequently she actually goes into that study. But there have got to be other places in the area to gather information.
Go back to the fact that Eric said change pocket, though.
So there she is in the
do
change
that.
pocket. It seems that Egwene
Not
has
to be
had...
confused with out of pocket, which is my probably most hated phrase of anything to do with vacationing
None of us will use that.
whatsoever.
None
Please
of us
don't
will use
ever.
that.
I will throw a banana at
Yeah,
you.
we're not using that. It seems Egwene has had nightmares of what would happen if she approached Nynaeve and Elaine in the world of dreams, which is one of the reasons why she wants to avoid them. She's also seen unfamiliar women wandering around the halls of the tower now.
Well, I mean, she's been gone for a little bit. How weird is it to think that there's going to be other people in there that she doesn't know?
Not only that,
I mean, Rand's running into
lady.
the kids from the village,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sure there's other initiates being brought in.
Into the world of dreams?
No, into the tower, and people can pop into the world of dreams by accident.
Yeah, but she says wandering, not popping. There are
but they do
strange
that,
people
though.
wandering around. I think this is more of a suggestion that we have more and more dark friends, because remember, the dark friends have all those dreaming Terangriel.
They do. But
So-
but she knows those. She knows those dark friends, though.
Well, but it's a Terangriel, so it can be changed from one hand to the other, and she knows their names and she knows their descriptions, but she hasn't seen all of them physically yet. And she's probably seeing Forsaken as well, and she definitely doesn't know all of them
Yeah,
physically.
but more likely the Forsaken are going to be able to disguise themselves successfully for a period of time than the dark friends are.
Sure,
Do you think so?
anybody can disguise
do
themselves in
all-
Teleranriode.
Do all of the Forsaken have the ability to just control everything? Yeah, I guess they do.
Probably. They've been doing this a long
It,
time.
it seems like from what we
I would
have
guess
seen,
so.
They do. Yeah.
We're reminded of Egwene's impatience before she recalls having seen a Domani woman, gotta be Lyanna, staring at a freshly blue-painted stable in Tarvalon. That's Lyanna looking in on her eyes and ears, and she was a blue, so that's
Mhm.
probably some kind of a sign. In addition to Lyanna, Egwene has also seen a sturdily pretty woman who moved with a purposeful stride, blue-eyed, and with a determined face.
Yeah.
See, I do think that's Swan.
Copper skinned.
No, Copperskin is the Damani, which is Leanne.
She would know
Oh.
Swan, though.
But no, not necessarily. Remember, she's been away. She has not seen Swan since Swan has lost her ability to channel. And remember, she changed, so other people didn't even recognize her. And Swan has an Angreal to get into the world of dreams.
Maybe.
So if
but
Leanne's
Swan
there-
would look. Well, Swan has the Angreal. She has the dreaming ring, so she
Right.
wouldn't be. She wouldn't be translucent. Swan is still recognizable. She just looks really, really young.
So many people have did not recognize her when she came to
Yep.
the other town.
It could be Swan. I
Salazar.
think it's going to be somebody else. But yeah, those are all fair arguments for it being Swan for sure.
Do you think it's just going to be a stranger we haven't met yet, Eric?
Yes.
I thought it would be someone we haven't met yet. I didn't think about it being Swan.
As she's thinking about.
Or
as
what
she's-
if we don't see? Like, what if we, what if we
It's
never
just a
find that
non
out?
Very
sequitur.
well,
It's a
right.
red herring.
Right. Communism was a red herring.
Then she sees a little bubble of a dream and she gets swallowed by that, and she's inside Gawain's dream of rescuing her from Rand.
This gets weird fast.
The dream reveals Gawain's love for Egwene and hers for him at the end of it. It also reveals that Gawain thinks one of the reasons Galad has become a White Cloak is because of how the Aes Sedai have used Egwene and Elaine.
Really? I guess it makes sense.
Well,
I guess it
and
makes sense for
Galad, both Galad and Gawain, when they've seen Elaine on occasion, have complained about the way that she's being used and what she's being allowed to do with them.
And
so,
yet one of them definitely is being used, if not both, by the White Cloaks.
well, one, not Gawain. Gawain isn't
one,
a White
yeah.
Cloak.
Galad,
Galad,
yeah.
yeah.
But he is, but also at the same time, it makes sense that he would go there and he willingly went there.
Yeah,
So-
I don't think Galad
Yes,
gets
absolutely.
used by any. I mean,
Oh, Galad's being used
interesting.
by Galad was being used by Aleda, for sure.
Gawain.
Gawain, thank you. Yeah, Galad, yeah. Well, I think the tower, or not the tower, those White Cloaks,
Them White Cloaks.
them there White Cloaks, I think they're using him a bit too. They know his temperament and they know his right and wrong thing, and they can probably apply that to their own needs. Well, let's
sure,
just face
they
it.
can, but
most of the
yeah.
majority of them
Oh.
have ulterior motives on everything they're
Yeah,
doing.
right.
Sure.
But the funny thing about that is, with his temperament, whether that'll work or not, I don't think it actually
Right.
will.
Yeah. So then we cut to Nynaeve, still trying to keep herself awake per Theodren's instructions. So she's trying to stay up all night. A bubble of evil surfaces, and Saladar breaks into pandemonium. Nynaeve helps several women next door and is frustrated by her failure to use the one power before Elaine enters and uses the power to rescue Amara and Ranel from some renegade bedsheets. Nynaeve walks out of the building and sees a dead watchman lying on the ground.
The bedsheets were wild.
Is this reminding anyone else of the Sorcerer's Apprentice, where everything is coming to life?
Oh, sure, yeah, the marching broomsticks.
Yeah. Right, where everything gets out of hand and first it's all under control and then the chaos happens. Now
only they didn't initiate this.
There was no initiation, there was no under control, just the chaos. Which is funny because let the Lord of Chaos rule.
Right.
Ooh, saucy.
Sprinkle. I'm sprinkling.
Nynaeve walks out of the building and sees a dead watchman lying on the ground, and she bends over to take a closer look at the man and then looks up to see Anaya. Anaya thinks this may be Samael and the Aes Sedai have planned for an attack from him, and that plan involves linking.
Bees.
And Nynaeve has an awkward moment trying to link with Anaya before she experiences the awe of the link.
Yeah.
During the link.
This was special for her.
Yeah, it really was.
She's like, this is what the power feels like.
Well, this is what not having to worry about controlling the power feels like. And everybody sort of goes through this tranquility while they're experiencing this link. During the link, though, one person who isn't tranquil is Nicola, who says, "The lion sword, the dedicated spear, she who sees beyond, three on the boat, and he who is dead yet lives, the great battle done, but the world not done with the battle, the land divided by the return, and the guardians balance the servants, the future teeters on the edge of a wave."
I think she said it like that, but that was fun.
She may have.
Is it just me, or is everyone else stupid when that happens? Because she makes this grand pronouncement, which is nothing like this girl has ever done before.
Right.
And the entire rest of the dumb women are all like, yeah, she just must be babbling.
It reminds me of Harry Potter in a little bit when there's the teacher that does the tea leaves. Trelawney.
Trelawney, yeah.
Matter. But it is that.
Right. It's a foretelling. It's a prophecy. Let's see if we can parse some of this out. So the lion sword, the dedicated spear. Well, Rand has the dragon sword, not the lion sword.
The lion has to do with Andor.
Right.
Matt has a spear.
The dedicated spear could also be the Aiel. The lion sword has to have something to do with Andor for sure, and maybe Elaine. She who sees beyond. So who's the most major prophet that we have? Is that, well, Guitarra Moroso is dead. So
I'm Guitarra Moroso and I'm dead.
So
quite dead.
Who's the other major
Varen
seer?
Somehow does, but also these girls that are going into the world of dreams, they kind of see beyond. So
the other major seer, well, is it Nicola?
Yeah, it's
Nicola. I don't have anyone else giving. We don't have anyone else giving prophecy.
Well, we do.
Foretelling.
The only other person that we know of is the one that we don't like so much. Remember, Elida has the foretelling.
Oh no,
I did forget about that.
And she is related to Andor and Caemlyn.
Oh.
Okay, so what's the line again?
The lion sword, the dedicated spear, she who sees beyond. I don't know what a dedicated spear would have to do with Andor. The only dedicated spear is either the Aiel, who are dedicated to Rand, and they're or.
So can I come in here and say?
I'm thinking this is. I think this is. I think this is Elaine.
Sees beyond as just a
Elaine can't see into the future through her dreams.
Yes.
Okay.
No, Egwene can see into the future through her dreams.
Oh, right, yeah. Elaine doesn't have any of this.
These three things do not necessarily have to be
the same person. No. These could be three different people.
So the lion sword would be Egwene.
Elaine,
the spear, and Avienda.
Okay.
It's all three of them.
All right. Okay, I could buy that.
Oh, why is Avienda she who sees beyond?
No, Avienda's the one with the spear.
That's Egwene.
I never thought about this. I think we're onto something, boys.
So those three women on a boat. 3 on the boat, and he who is dead yet lives. The only one that meets that's got to be Matt.
And he's dead.
It could also be inside Rand's head.
Lews Therin.
Lews Therin.
Or it could be Pot and Fang.
The great battle done, but the world not done with the battle.
To me, that's Matt.
But the great battle is Tarmin Gaiden.
Well, as we
Yeah,
find out from Herod
that's
Fell
Herod.
later,
That
that's
seems
not
like Herod
necessarily
could
the
be.
last battle.
Well, but that's a different thing. But that is what I think of this is something important still has to occur after Tarmin Gaiden.
That just seems like the Herod conversation. Yeah.
Right.
The land divided by the return, that's the Helene, so that's the Shan-Chan.
Oh, gosh.
And the Guardians balance the servants, that's still the Shan-Chan, because they are the Guardians.
The Guardians were the people waiting for the people from the return.
Right, it's related to the Shan-Chan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The future
But
teeters
that's gonna
on
get
the
tricky.
edge of a blade. Nothing actually
Trying
is
to be
prophesied
Shido.
here. She just names a bunch of people and situations.
Well,
she doesn't determine an outcome or mention an outcome.
We don't know. That we could be completely misinterpreting this, and it could be something else entirely. And we may never find out what that is.
As you mentioned, Dave, Anaya seems totally unaware of what Nicola has just said. And
how is it she drops this crazy phrase?
It's not like they're arranged in a circle singing Dahu Doris. I mean, there's a lot of chaos. No, they're wandering through these streets and chairs are hurtling out at them.
But that is just equally as weird as the rest of that. And they're paying attention to all the rest of that. I think someone would go, someone please tell me you remember what she just said and write that crap down.
The other thing is, it's not like there's a giant gong that rang and she's shouting at the top of her lungs. I mean, I was loud, but she very well could have just been speaking at a normal level, which is why Nynaeve hears her and nobody else does.
That would have been a more interesting read.
Now, yes.
Eric
So maybe that is it. Maybe it is
it.
It was just such an aside that only one person was really like,
yeah.
But even you would think Nynaeve would be like, well, that was a note to pay attention to.
Nynaeve does think it's strange. Nynaeve and Elaine explain that this wasn't a Forsaken attack, but a bubble of evil. Nynaeve goes on to mention she and Elaine have discovered a ter'angreal, but the Aes Sedai move on before Nynaeve can get words out.
Well, I love that. She's telling them, this is not the Golden Bees, Yamurans. This is a bubble of evil.
Right.
And everyone's like, poo-poo, child. You don't know what you're talking about.
No, I think they're willing to accept that, but they're not.
No, they don't. It's only the
really?
second time around when she mentions it that they
Okay.
possibly ponder it. Possibly ponder.
The chapter wraps up with Nynaeve trying to determine why Anaya seemed disappointed that this was not a Forsaken attack, and then she passes
that's
Theodrin
so strange.
and makes the decision that she's going to go to sleep, but she doesn't follow through with it.
Well, I think the reason why she's upset that it wasn't the Forsaken attack was because they've been preparing. Like, they've been making their own battle plans to be ready for this Forsaken attack. Like,
right.
When it happens, we're going to have all this ready to go, and then something happens and they're all ready to go, which didn't go very well, and it wasn't the Forsaken? Well, gosh darn it. We prepared all this for nothing and it hasn't happened yet? Like, it's just that weird kind of, it goes along with the rest of their stupidity.
Which takes us to chapter 15, A Pile of Sand. The pile of sand refers to the order given by Melaine to Kawinda to search a pile of sand for a red grain. So Egwene wakes from her night of dreaming. It seems that since the death of Moiraine, dreaming gives Egwene a low-grade headache. She looks out of her tent and then returns to her bed and falls asleep. She dreams of Gawain and has some prophecy dreams. So in her dreams, she's trying to get Gawain to turn away from her and face a wall against his will. Gawain's closing a door on her. If the door shuts, she realizes that she'll die, so something's going to go on between she and Gawain and him denying her, and if he totally denies her, she's going to die. She dreams of Perrin with a wolf at his feet and a hawk on his shoulders, staring at each other. That's fairly obvious.
Right.
He tries to throw his axe, finally running away with the axe chasing him.
Okay,
That
so
axe,
we know what the
that
pair and
axe.
who
Yeah.
those people are, being...
It's his wolf brothers and then Fael.
Oh, that's who you think it is?
You think it's Barrelane?
Yeah.
Well,
Ooh, why?
I mean,
Because that's her standard.
she is represented by a hawk as well, but so is Fael. I mean, her name is Hawk.
No, Fael's a falcon.
Oh, Fael's okay.
Fael is not a hawk.
no, she is a falcon.
No, that's an important difference.
Well, that's interesting because she always is asking about Perrin. And
That's right. That's
Right.
why
Yes.
why that's there.
Another of her dreams involves Perrin being turned away from a tinker and running faster and faster. We know who that is.
That little tinker. So,
Aram.
yeah, it's
Aram, whatever you want to pronounce
Yeah.
it with. Potato,
Yeah.
potato,
Yeah.
Tarvalon, Shan-Chan, whatever.
Another dream is Matt speaking in the old language and two ravens perch on his shoulders, claws sinking into his clothing and flesh.
So we got two ravens.
Not only
Yes,
that,
but that's
though,
the symbol of the Sean Chan. Are
she's
two
like
ravens. No,
speaking-
it's two ravens facing each other.
Okay.
She is also able to understand that language.
She can understand it in the dream, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I bet she couldn't in the waking world correctly.
In the world
He
of
doesn't.
dreams, all sorts of crazy stuff happens that that doesn't happen in the natural world. So that
Oh,
makes
it's no big
sense.
deal.
She dreams of a woman's face shrouded in shadows, beckoning Perrin toward danger. And then her
Wow.
Elaine forcing Rand to his knees. Elaine, Min, and Avienda sitting in a circle around Rand, each in turn laying hands on him. Rand heading toward a burning mountain, the seals of the Dark One crunching under his boots.
I can't remember. All the things that she dreams do not necessarily come true.
She doesn't even know this.
Okay.
She doesn't even know the answer to that.
All right.
Two women she had seen in Teleronrio drag her toward a table of hooded women who reveal themselves as Leandrin.
That's just latent fear right there.
A hard-faced
Or-
Sean Chan woman hands her an Adam. Rand capering through Kyrien with men behind him blasting buildings with lightning and fire. She eventually is awoken by the Gaishan Kawinda. Quinda's period of service is over, but she's maintained her service, like several Gaishan. Amis, Bear, and Mullane then enter Egwene's tent. The three wise men comment on Egwene's recent dip in health, post her fight with
Oh, Lanfear.
Lanfear.
Yeah.
Egwene
She's
had
still
that,
recovering
so
from
she's
that.
still recovering from her fight with Lanfear.
Yeah, she's got
Yeah.
headaches and she's got all sorts of stuff going on.
She had to be sitting cross-legged on a pillow.
Do we think she can't grab the power correctly, or
No, she's fine. She can do that.
No,
She'll
we'll
be
get
fine.
there. It's yeah.
Mullane demands that Kawinda go and search a pile of sand for a red grain, and then the wise ones discuss the rash of Gaishan who refuse to end their service. The behavior has affected a quarter of all Gaishan. It is apparently only several weeks after the attack by Lanfear. The wise ones have been keeping Egwene out of the world of dreams due to her headaches, but suggest she may be allowed to go with them in the next meeting with the Aes Sedai. Egwene asks them
Yep.
if she can be pulled into someone else's dream against her will.
right? She's
Right.
Not that I know anybody like this, but
A friend of mine,
right. I'm really worried about this person I know who just happens to be in the world of dreams.
Bear informs her love and hate will allow that to happen. Bear goes
Right.
on to say that she learned
That
from a
80s,
near
90s band,
200-year-old
they're gonna
wise one that if the love is strong enough, a dreamwalker can be sucked in by simply
I thought
being
it was
aware of the other
300.
person's dream.
I thought it was 300.
Okay.
Well, that's more impressive than 200. That's another 100.
Right. Because more is
Adam
always
can do
better.
math.
Yes.
Adam with quick math.
There you go.
Look at that. That's simple math.
Right. Simple meth? That's a different
Come to
matter
me with
also.
You're right, Adam. It is 300.
It's a long time to be alive.
I mean,
which
so is
isn't-
200, by the way.
Yeah. But
Hmm?
300 is better. Because as
It's
we
not
know,
as
it's
impressive.
more
It's
than
more.
200.
Right.
And more is better.
Egwene thinks that not even Aes Sedai lived to
Or-
300, so it is a long time.
For the last 200 years are awful.
300 years ago, our forefather.
We leave Egwene and join Elaine, who heads out into the town and is quickly joined by Nynaeve. The town is
Yeah.
gathered to see Tarna Fair depart for Tar-Valon. The two accepted are soon joined by Swan as they wait for Tarna to emerge. Shortly, Tarna leaves and Romanda Sedai stands on top of a cart and tries to calm everyone's nerves with assurances that they will all be safe now and after our assured return to our proper places in the White Tower. And that's why Elaine doesn't want to leave until they have tied Tower 2 to Rand, because there are some people at Tower 2 who still can't wait to return to Tower 1.
I don't think that's unnatural. Everyone wants the tower
No.
to be whole.
Sure.
Totally makes
Everyone
sense.
wants to. Some of them are just more eager for it to happen sooner than others.
Right. And some of them
And when
may
it
not
happens is
necessarily
very
care
important.
as much about Elida being ousted.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it's good
Elida,
to
all on her
differentiate
own
the
in
two
that
things.
room by herself.
Maybe she'll appear in that dusty storeroom. That's what they need, to shank her in the dusty storeroom.
The crowd disperses and Nynaeve heads toward the little tower. Near the cart on which Romanda has just spoken from, Nynaeve asks Sheriam, Morvern, and
That's a fun
Carlinia
word to
for a
say.
private audience. Nynaeve tells the Aes Sedai of the crystal bowl ter'angreal they found in Ibu Dar and requests leave to find it.
And once again, they're like...
Yeah. They deny the request and suggest that Merlilel Candavin, the Grey Sedai, tried to convince the Queen of Ibu Dar to join Tower 2 and be allowed to search for the bowl on her own.
At least they do give credence to the fact that they think that's
the bowl
real.
exists?
Right.
Sure, yeah. Elaine suggests that she and Nynaeve are in a better position to find the bowl than Merliel. That's her name.
I don't think we're going to get it right, whatever
it's
it is.
Merliel, yeah.
I
Merliel.
don't know.
She further suggests that eyes and ears in Caemlyn can be informed of the bowl because as she lies, a man is needed to help channel the bowl to work.
Right, she just drops that.
Yep.
That's the total mic drop and kick.
Nynaeve is like, what?
It just seems glossed over.
Yeah.
Well, it is because nobody can call her on it.
Elaine hasn't mentioned that to Nynaeve before
right.
this
She
moment.
just makes it up.
I don't think she's made it up. She just knows it, and she hung on to that nugget
No,
for some
it's a
strange
lie.
reason.
No, it's a flat-out lie. It says so in the narrative.
It does. It says it's a lie.
Oh, so she's so what we're saying is she's just doing that to guarantee
try to
that
tie
they'll...
them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is her... Because even she can't figure out why the weather bowl has anything to do with tying Tower 2 to Rand.
Isn't it stupid to think that it wouldn't have something to do with Rand because that's what they put into their heads?
Even you assumed that because Need took them there, it must have something to do with Rand in Tower 2. She's probably operating under the same assumption, but like me, she can't figure out what it is either, so she lies to make it more specific.
Okay, all right.
Which, who knows if that's the right thing to do.
I'll give you that
not.
sprinkle.
I don't think that lying to Aes Sedai is a good idea.
No.
She
Of course,
further
the Aes
suggests...
Sedai find ways to do that without actually lying, so,
Right.
I mean, it's not really much
True.
different.
The Aes Sedai still deny Nynaeve and Elaine leave to find the bowl, so Nynaeve explodes in a tirade accusing the Aes Sedai of being afraid.
I love it.
Yep.
Speaking of things not to do to Aes
It
Sedai.
didn't end well, but I love it.
Yeah,
I
cut
love that
to-
she went with that rant.
Talk.
That rant was fantastic.
Cut to Elaine cleaning a soup cauldron and being monitored by Fowlane.
Not only cleaning it, like head first in a pot. This is my Lloyd Alexander moment. My reference to the black cauldron. Like when you crawl into the cauldron and become
Right.
the cauldron born.
Yeah.
Like this is what she's doing. She's
it's so
crawled
sad.
into this thing and she's scrubbing out the char in the bottom.
We then move to
Mr.
Sheriam and
Governor.
Carlinia on the other side of a fence from Nynaeve and Elaine. The two are discussing a close-kept secret that Nynaeve's accusations almost revealed. So it must have something to do with them being afraid to tie themselves to Rand?
Or just afraid in general.
Just being afraid in general.
Yeah,
Which
because they always have to seem like they're in control. And if you admit that you're afraid, that means you're not completely in control of everything.
Yeah, but
So-
there's a secret involved with that.
Secret,
That's just
secret.
pride. I'm not sure
That's very
that
true.
pride is somehow tied to his secret. So that takes us to chapter 16, Tellings of the Wheel.
Of the wheel.
So chapter 16 begins with Rand sitting comfortably or uncomfortably on the dragon throne, holding the dragon scepter and briefly considering what the maidens might do to Alana if they knew what she had done to him. Rand seems to be waiting for some people to arrive. There are a couple of jibes by Luz Theron. He eschews those thoughts and listens to Halwyn Nori as he accounts for the new immigrants who have arrived to Caemlyn.
I like Nori.
He's a rather dry man.
He's
however.
a rather dry man, but he gets his bidness done.
I agree with you.
Rand cuts him off after Davram Bashir enters with Lady Dylan of House Taravin, Lord Abel of House Pendar, Lord Lewin of House Norwellen, and Lord Elorian of House Tremaine.
These also sound like Lloyd Alexander names. I'm just saying.
Well, they're very English. These are
no,
very
they're not
names.
English. They're very
No, Tremaine is an English name.
Scottish. Llewellyn?
It's UK. They share it's a very, very
Somewhere
similar
right now, some
past.
Scottish guys got some bagpipes coming for you, Eric.
Before all this, before him meeting them, that he remembers Moraine's voice saying to him that, like, the first thing that you see will forever be imprinted on them. Just another mention of Moiraine. I'm wondering
because
what's going on with
She
that.
is the cat's pajamas.
Rand seems to be using much of Moiraine's advice as he deals with the Andoran nobles. Bashir introduces him with a bunch of titles. Rand requests that they all be seated. The three argue for a bit over who Rand is and whether Elaine or Dylan should sit on the Lion Throne. Dylan finally says she will support Rand's idea of crowning Elaine and leaving Caemlyn only when she sees it happen. This leads to a laughing fit of mirth and frustration from Rand. Rand is now no longer sure if his laughter is indeed madness or not, but Rand is getting more and more comfortable with the idea of Lews Therin in his head.
This is why I don't understand why we're not getting Randy with it, because that's some crazy stuff.
Really seems to be going mad at this point, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's the definition of mad? I mean, we don't really know if this is schizophrenia or if it's really a separate entity in Rand's head. When we're talking about the dragon reborn, you're talking about something reborn in someone else's body. So if that is the case, then is it really madness when you've got somebody else in your head? I can see it can drive you crazy, but Rand's part of himself still feels sane, and he's got this other voice talking to him. So is that Rand's madness, quote unquote, or is this really somebody else in his head? And we don't know that yet.
I think that if you have someone else in your head, that could absolutely drive you crazy.
I think it could, but I don't think it has yet.
We haven't gotten to the last chapter. I think it's the next chapter. Lews Therin is humming to himself when he sees Berlain.
That gives me the inclination of an actual separate entity.
I agree, but I think
Sure,
both
but
things
that
are
doesn't
true.
matter.
I don't think they
To
are
Adam's
true yet.
point.
It's still driving him mad.
Okay. Rand dismisses the group, but before they can leave, he pulls Dylan aside and asks her about her initial shock at seeing him. And Rand finally gets the story of who his mother truly is and why people keep telling him he looks like Tigraine. After the story, Dylan tells Rand of Tigraine, and he finds himself wishing for someone to confide in. The Andorans leave, and Rand finds himself staring at stained glass windows, a past queen staring down at him before Davram Bashir speaks to him. Bashir tells Rand that an emissary from Lord Brend, a.k.a. Samael, has arrived. The messenger enters, and it's clear Samael has done something to the man. His face is frozen in a grin, while his eyes seem to scream in madness and his hands twitch.
He looked all right. He was holding it together.
After confirming who has sent him, the man ceases speaking in his own voice, and the voice of Samael emanates from his mouth, asking Rand for an amnesty.
Pretty cool scene. I love this scene. It was great.
Is it just me or like I'm picturing like the Joker face? Love that Joker.
Oh, yeah,
like
absolutely.
the creepy Joker
Yes.
smiles.
Rand denies the amnesty
Soulless eyes.
in strong words, and the messenger collapses in a bloody spasm.
That was like one of the more
Gruesome
graphic,
things.
gruesome things Jordan's done. Yeah.
After the
It was
dream that
wonderful.
Elaine enters in and conquers in the tower,
Yeah.
just outside of Elida's study. Despite his commitment to watch Bashir's men drill, Rand decides on the spur of the moment to head to Cairhien. And Aviendha says that she'll come along, which takes us to chapter 17, The Wheel of Life.
You know what? I'm missing out on my Aviendha
I miss
time.
Aviendha.
Yeah, there you go, Adam. I do.
Yeah, I miss her.
Yeah.
So Rand creates a gateway and leaves
She's
the
in the
throne room for the
periphery.
Sun Palace of Cairhien. He finds himself talking to Corman Havian,
Corbin Burnson?
Corman,
Oh.
Corman and
Gilsroy.
a Mayiner officer,
Him and,
and
George.
is
they're talking
frustrated
to
that
Corbin.
Aviendha has
Mayiner.
used this conversation as an excuse to sneak away. So you wanted your Aviendha time. Rand thought he was going to get some Aviendha time, and she sneaks off. And she's not
Wow.
thrilled once she gets there. Apparently, she's
No.
being summoned against
She doesn't
her
seem
own
thrilled
better
in
interests.
general.
Rand instructs the men to lead him to Berlain and Rourke, whoever is closest. Javian and Corman fail to find the two, but Berlain and Rourke find Rand. Berlain
This is
asks
true.
after Matt and Perrin, and Rand asks after Egwene, who seems to be on the path to recovery. While they walk, Rand peers down into a courtyard where he sees a group of young noblewomen practicing at swordplay. It seems the Cairhienin have been adopting and twisting Giotto to their own means. The Aiel are angered by this, but Berlain has allowed it to develop because it has reduced the deaths among the young men. She also has been supporting the young women who want to learn the sword as well.
Ruark is not like that. Was it Ruark?
Oh,
who
yeah,
was it?
Rourke's not a fan
It was
of
Ruark.
this.
I'm just going to say, I think this is a great moment between Ruark and Berlain, and it's almost the she's sticking her tongue out at him thing, which is a great reminder of the fact that she's a young woman.
Mhm.
Like, she's in a massive position of power, but she's not all that old.
Rand dismisses his large retinue before entering a study. Berlain confirms that Caroline Damodred and Tormund Riatin are still in rebellion. It's possible that some Andorran soldiers have joined them. This group has retreated to the foothills of the spine of the world, and Rand wonders if Pedron Niall has had his hand in this group somehow as well as he has in
The
Andor.
Illianers and the-
No, it's the group
Kyrian.
it's the group in Andor that we know Niall is involved in. Rand ignores this minor threat, though, to focus on the more important one, which is Samael at this point for Rand.
Yep.
Rourke tells Rand there is fighting in Shara that has arisen since they've heard of who Rand is. We get another Sharan mention here.
Why couldn't Rand just teleport to Samael and just lop his head off?
It's possible that Samael has wards that won't allow Rand to travel there, for one.
Probably.
And
yeah.
Rand also has to know traveling requires knowledge of
That's
the destination.
true, where he is. Yeah.
Kyrian is starting to recover economically, and a Seafolk ship has docked there as recently as this morning as the trade starts to continue to grow in the land.
Which is strange because it's so far from the sea. Is that the same one we saw before?
No, we're getting more and more sightings of the Seafolk docking in river ports and seaports as well.
Oh, so you think it's just more of them?
This is more evidence that they are becoming
Coming
more
in.
prevalent on this continent and behaving in ways
Okay.
that they historically haven't, which is
Interesting.
strange. Jelani then interrupts Barrelane to tell Rand that Mangin is there to see him.
Oh, boy.
Mangin enters and tells Rand he's killed a drunken Kyrianan for showing off a dragon tattoo on his forearm and the markings of an Aiel clan chief.
That guy's so cocky about it.
I don't think he is at
no,
all.
he's just matter of
He's
fact
matter of
about
fact.
it.
He's yeah.
You don't think so? I thought
No.
he was just like, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
No,
'cause
the
I have to
Aiel
do
aren't
it.
really
Yeah, I don't-
cocky,
No, I think
except for
unless you're-
Kool-Aid Man.
Again, he's dead.
Right,
But
and he's
I'm
dead.
Quite
Right.
dead.
Right.
I thought he had a little like.
No,
you just
no,
think
I
it was
felt
just
no
it was
attitude
just
from him.
matter of fact. This
He's not
is
even
how things
sad.
go.
Like he's gonna
Yeah.
die, and he's not even sad.
I agree with that. I thought that would have gone on line of being just like I did the right thing.
Being cocky would have gone along the lines of I did the right thing.
No, not being sad about it.
Right,
'Cause he
he's
felt
just
like he
matter of fact
inherited
No,
about
I mean
it.
he's
the
not
right
sad
thing,
about.
yeah.
He's not sad about dying.
What's
Right,
the
he accepts
difference
his
between
punishment.
that and a white cloak?
What's the difference between an Aiel and a white cloak?
Well, and believing going to your death about it.
I don't think that we've seen that many white cloaks who would be
No,
willing
we
to
haven't.
die
Yeah,
for their
that's true.
beliefs. We assume that they're like that, but we haven't actually witnessed any
There's
of it.
soldiers out there. Yeah, we haven't witnessed.
Mangin is one of the original Aiel to take the stone with Rand, and Rand
Yeah,
really
that was
likes
some
the man.
interesting information there.
It's just tough. It's a very, very
Sad.
sad scene, and
I
one
don't
of
like
those.
it. I get it. Justice has to be done. You have to follow the letter of what you wrote, and you wrote something.
Well,
so
you don't
gotta-
have to. You should.
Well, if you don't, then the
It's not a-
political the political ramifications would be monstrous.
It rips away at the legitimacy of the law,
Rand
which
did
is
not
why.
like it,
Yeah,
and
no.
he's trying to pass it off onto someone else.
Well, ultimately, he accepts responsibility for it.
Sure.
He wavers in how it's handled, but ultimately he says, "No, you know what? Do it tomorrow and tell him that I'm the one that commanded this." Which, given the way that Mangin treated the conversation in the first place, Rand shouldn't really foresee Mangin having any problem with that. It's just that this
he said, "May
this sucks.
may you find shade, like may you find water."
It's tough.
Rand actually at the end of it was kind of like, "I don't want to deal with this. This isn't something I should have to deal with." And he's kind of breaking the law in that sense, and the fact that Ruark was like, "No, he had toe to you," and then Rand at this point is like, "No, I don't want to deal with this. You two have to deal with this stuff." Laying down the law.
But then a paragraph later, he does deal with it.
No, he did, but then he's going out and being like, "You all have to do this now."
No,
What
but
I
then he
just
says,
did.
but then he concludes with, "No, you know what? I'm telling you it will happen tomorrow," and let him know that I'm the one that is proclaiming this.
In terms of his death, yes. But Rand is saying this should not happen hereforth. That I shouldn't be the one having to go down and laying down the law.
Right,
You
and he's
all should be
right.
taking care of
He's
it.
It is.
right.
It's like the judiciary
Yeah.
branch. Once you set the law, it's no
Right.
longer up to the guy who sets the law to enforce
Yep.
the law.
But it's a big difference because of what Ruark said and the fact that he had toe to him. And so he's changing up the whole toe thing.
Who is?
Rand, because he's saying someone else is going to take care of that rather than me.
Well, because Rand is actually right. Rourke doesn't have
I
toe to
agree.
Rand. Rourke has toe to the law. Now, Rand wrote the laws, and because in this particular instance, Rand came face to face with the man in the situation, I think it's up to Rand to take care of it. But Rand can't address every single one of these. Otherwise, that's all he would ever be doing. Which takes us to our final chapter, chapter 18, A Taste of Solitude. Rand has Rourke and Barrowlane inform Mangan that he is to be hanged on the morrow before telling them he is leaving for the school he's founded there. The school has used the property of the now dead Lord Barthanas Damodred, the Dark Friend who was housing the Horn of Valir before Rand and co. took it back in the Great Hunt. Upon arrival at the school, Idrian greets him to show him some of the new...
ago?
The Great Hunt.
A year and a half.
It's book 3. Well, right, yeah. I mean, however long you want to imagine it is in this truncated timeline. Upon arrival at the school, Idrian greets him and shows him some of the new inventions. Most of the contraptions are creations of our world. A hot air balloon, a tractor plow.
Which Dave wants to hop on.
A telescope. Well, that's the reason why I used the hot air balloon at the beginning of this.
This is such a fun scene. He gets it's like a it's like a third grade science fair.
Yeah.
But with more impressive stuff.
Well, more like a high school, maybe a junior high science fair. Yeah.
This would be somewhere in Boston if it's that. Yeah. There's a printing press.
Yep.
It's huge. And then we get to see Tovir again.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Any guesses what the man with all the brass tubes and cylinders and all the steam that he keeps burning himself with is making?
It's just a steam engine, I would imagine.
That's what I'm guessing, yeah.
So with all these inventions, what do these people seem on the verge of?
Well, flying, first of all, because there was that woman that Rand went to talk to, and she was having all these pigeons that she made out of wood that could seem like they could fly, but she couldn't say a word because she was so scared by Rand. They seem on the verge of the age of industry.
Yes, they're on the verge of the Industrial Revolution.
Which is really interesting because I did not expect this in these books.
Yeah, it is a progression of civilization, but the more interesting thing is that they're moving away from magic. Remember, all of these things were achieved in I want to say the Second Age, the Age of Legends, but it was all achieved with magic. And now because Rand is inventing these schools, these things are being achieved by more practical means, by more earthly means, no supernatural
I do,
means.
But I don't. I want more magic.
I agree. I don't like it either.
It's interesting though because he has
a chimney sweep in England how great the Industrial Revolution was. Yeah, he's got 2 schools and he wants to launch another one.
That's pretty great. I do love the fact that when they show up, though, everyone's wearing wool. And I was like, yeah, that's probably the thing you should be wearing for this weather.
So he notices that more people are wearing wool than silk, which means there are some people wearing silk. And that's just to reference the fact that there are more common people amongst this group than there are, wealthy people.
Well, everyone is 75, and then the young people that he sees are 15 years younger than that. So
it's an older group.
This is interesting to me because this is Terry Brooks in his big Shannara series. The Shannara series was, he ended up combining a couple different worlds. The Word and the Void series and then the Shannara series melded, and it started out in a time of science in a world like ours today. And then magic started kind of crept in and eliminated the world. Armageddon happened, science died, and magic was left. And then that was all there was, the magic. And even until the end of the books, and there might be some I haven't read yet, but this is kind of the flip side of that coin.
Right.
We think. I don't know if the magic is ever going to go away.
So Rand leaves this group and then goes to Herod Feld's study. And along the way, realizes that Jelani and Daedric are attracted to each other.
Yeah.
As they stand outside the door of the study. So he tells them to enjoy himself as he enters the study.
He's like, I know what you two are up to. I know what you two did.
They don't even know what they're up to, by the way. They're just flirting with each other at this point.
Well, but the Aiel.
Well, I think you know what you're doing after flirting.
No, the Aiel still have this beginning where
they got a cat and mouse dance. They know.
Oh, the Aiel have stuff I don't even know about. We learned a lot about what the Aiel have.
That should be the name of a chapter.
I think that Daedric is still trying to figure out what he wants to do with Jelani. That's neither here nor there.
Jelani does sound like some sort of Sword Bay flavor.
Yes, I agree.
I think it's a tantalizing one.
Rand asks Fel
great.
whether the bond between a warder and an Aes Sedai can be broken.
This isn't another one of those.
Great
And the
question.
man
I'm
thinks
asking
not.
for a friend
Right,
of
yes.
mine.
Rand then follows up on a previous question, and Herod Fel explains the Wheel of Time to Rand and why that means that Tarmangaiden can't be the last battle.
It's
and then
so good.
we jump to Elaine, who seems to have recently come from a disappointingly brief encounter with Aviendha. The Wise One in training basically nods her head at Elaine while she walks into Amisa's tent, and Egwene then requests...
And they're all like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, and Egwene tries
You
to
weren't
follow
summoned.
in, and she's turned away at the door. Egwene then requests Sora Leia take her to Rand's quarters. When she gets to them, she is startled by the appearance of Nyala, Aviendha's sister, who we've never heard of before.
No.
So
This is kind of
Aviendha's had a sister all this time.
Do we think this is a blood-born sister, or
Yes.
is this one of these near sister
No,
type things?
No, I think this is a bloodborne sister.
It seems like it's blood because of the physical aspect of how she's described. It seems blood. Jordan kind of goes out of his way to say that she's not quite as attractive by calling her plump in the face.
Well,
apparently.
no. That's just a reference to the difference between a youthful appearance and an older one. Is as we get older, we lose more baby fat. That's all that is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, because she's younger.
Yeah, she's younger
I like a plump.
But
in
she's,
the
but
face.
she's,
Yeah.
but the funny thing is, she's younger and she's married.
because she's
It's a
not.
wild
She
world.
She's
wasn't
not
a
a maiden
spear
in the
maiden.
spear. Do we know that?
Yes, she was a weaver.
Well, you got to
Yeah,
watch out for
that's
those
mentioned.
weavers.
Rand enters, and Egwene bursts into a request for help with the Wise Ones. Egwene offers to take a message to Elaine for Rand, as
Right
she
away.
suspects
Yeah, right
none
off
have
the
been
bat.
taken to her since their arrival in Saladar. Rand asks if she will tell him where Elaine is.
Well, Rand was also like, "Hey, I'm glad you asked me how I'm doing. Are you okay?"
He's saying, hey, everybody else around me is constantly asking me for stuff.
No.
You burst in here and act the same way, which is
We've
really
been over this
disappointing.
before with these two about how heartbreaking it is, their relationship, but this one's rough.
Rand asks if she'll tell him where Elaine is. Elaine refuses, and Rand tells Egwene he intends...
Egwene
Adam.
refuses, yeah.
Right, Egwene refuses. He tells Egwene he intends to make Elaine Queen of Andor and Kyrian, which
Yep.
is news to all of us, right?
I mean, I assumed that would happen.
You assumed she was going to be queen of both?
Oh, not both. No, pardon me.
I mean,
Well-
we've had hints that she has claims to the Sun Throne.
Right.
There have been hints in the past, so this isn't totally out of nowhere. We then get a brief confrontation between the two old friends, and they realize how much things have changed between them, per what
Yeah.
Adam had said.
Sad.
Yep.
Rand senses that Egwene is channeling and asks her if she really thinks she needs to protect herself from him.
Doing it
She's
again.
like, "No, I
Yeah, it's
don't.
been-
Well, I don't
been
need to
nonstop.
protect myself from you." And it's like, you kind of probably have to.
Egwene leaves Rand, still trying to figure out how to convince the Wise Ones she's healthy enough to re-enter Teleron Riode. Rand stares at the door after Egwene leaves, saddened by the fact that he'll have to treat her as Aes Sedai moving forward and not a friend from home. Rand's just gotten through thinking at least he could entrust his thoughts with his peers from Emond's Field, and now he's even lost some of them, hence the title of this chapter.
I think he had lost her before this, though.
He lost Egwene a long time ago.
Yes, but this is
Yeah.
this is the final nail in that coffin.
You think it's the
Sure.
final nail?
I feel like it's presented that way.
Yeah,
I agree with Eric. in
it's
terms of
presented as a
that.
turning
We got a
point.
lot of books to go.
We do, yeah.
That stuff could be rearranged,
Right,
as
it
well, and
can
things be
reverse
forgiven.
course, but right now this is the course that it's on. And Rand
It seemed pretty obvious that that's what was taking place.
and
That's
Rand is in a
sad.
place where he recognizes that he needs people to be able to confide in, and this is one person that he can't do it with, and the number of people that he can is just so
It's dwindling.
small, and
It's dwindling.
none of them are around.
I'm hoping
Perrin's
for
been
some-
gone for books.
I'm hoping for some reconciliation there, just because he can't.
Sure.
He can't keep
Me
going his
too.
way with. He can't keep going his way with Egwene.
And he's gonna need some people within the Aes Sedai that he can trust.
Yeah, even though she's.
Well,
not,
he's got no
she's
one.
not
Even
Aes Sedai.
Aviendha.
Well, she's within the structure.
Right,
she's
she
not
is.
an Aes Sedai. The chapter concludes with Sulin keeping watch on Rand from the courtyard below his room.
Do we think that's going to become like something huge? At some given point, someone's going to find out they're not Aes Sedai, and just
Oh yeah, yeah.
the floodgates of lava from Mount
Yes.
Doom are going to come pouring down.
Yes, that is a big problem on
Well,
the
they already
horizon.
know that, though.
They
There's other
who?
people that know that they're not Aes Sedai.
Who? Who that matters and could discipline them for it knows.
AKA the Aiel. The Aiel do not know.
The Aes Sedai.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's
I
not
was
just the
talking about-
Aiel who would
I was-
the Aiel would be less upset than the Aes Sedai would. And the
would
Aiel
they?
would be upset. Oh yes.
With
yes.
Egwene?
Yes.
One of their understudies?
Sure.
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm not saying the Aiel wouldn't be upset. I'm saying the wrath of the Aes Sedai would be just as great and what the
I'm
Aes
sorry.
Sedai
I
could
was
do
thinking
to
about
them.
Elaine and Nynaeve.
Well, all three of them. They all have pretended to be Aes Sedai at some point.
They know that they're not Aes Sedai and Saladar.
They don't know that they've been pretending to be Aes Sedai up to that point.
That's true.
Swan does,
Yeah.
and she's been holding that back. The chapter concludes with Sulin
Lyanna.
keeping watch on Rand from the courtyard below his room. She's
Yep.
determined to keep Rand safe, even when Rand thinks he's alone. He's not.
That was such a weird way to end that chapter.
It was very strange because it made her seem
I
like she
did
was doing
not
something
understand it.
Nefarious. And
Yeah.
it was short, and it was just kind of like, why are
But
you
she's-
throwing that in there?
because it demonstrates what I said. It demonstrates that even when Rand thinks he's alone, he's still got people watching over him.
But that's a good thing, I think.
Yes, but it still means he's never alone. So it's a good thing in that moment, but it's not great for Rand to never have solitude. So let's move on to History Repeats,
Boom shakalaka.
where we just kind of talk about some of the history that we learn here.
You know what's funny? You say the history repeats, and what I'm hearing in my head is I'm hearing the song again by Alice in Chains. I don't know why, but it's just when I'm again and again and again.
Yeah,
I'm hearing
it's
this in my
about
head.
repetition.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
So, chapter 16, we get this story. We've drawn these conclusions before because we had several prophecies, and these books have been littered with references to Tigraine and her disappearance. That idea has been littered in significant moments throughout these books. But here we finally get the whole thing sort of laid out.
Yeah, in a
So-
strange way.
So, first of all, Tigraine was told by Guitarra Moroso that it was incredibly important that she leave Caemlyn for the Blight. And as I recall, Moroso doesn't really give her any instruction beyond that. She's simply given that one thing and makes a very difficult decision and heads out in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like there's backstory there that we don't have or have had. There's probably more. There's going to be obviously more to that than we know. I can't exactly remember if we were given that before. I don't remember.
As I recall, there is no why. Moroso is the reason why she leaves, and Moroso just knows that she needs to go. There isn't a reason.
That's a complete and utter trust in somebody to just be like, you need to go. Okay, I'm going to go. There has to be some founded proof of trust for you to do that. Like you're leaving your husband, you're leaving your children,
Yeah.
and you're just going out into the Aiel waste
Right.
of all places in the world.
Yep.
That's not a small thing. That's a massive, literally not life-changing, world-changing event. Though she doesn't know it, but it is.
She didn't know that. Yeah, but I mean,
Well, but she
the way
had to
that
know
this-
from
the
a
way that
world-changing
the
event it
soci-
would be.
The society is set up. I think it could make sense why she would have to. I don't know.
But it is
Yeah,
if you think
that's
about it,
rough.
I'm not even talking about Rand. I'm talking world-changing event. You are the daughter heir. You are leaving. You're
Yeah.
leaving
Nation.
Caemlyn.
Right. Yeah.
Your nation.
Yeah.
That is event changing.
Well, it did. It changed.
Mhm.
It changed tons of stuff. It's the reason why Morghese becomes queen.
Right.
There are a couple of reasons why she trusts Moroso. The woman was an established foreteller, so she was an established prophet. She was to Tigraine's mother what Elida was to Morghese, so she's very important. And even though she was a counselor to the queen, she spent most of her time with the two children. So she had
Better than
a
that
really
crackpot Elida.
she had a really good relationship with Tigraine.
Yeah. And away she went.
Yeah.
And then she came back.
Now
Years later, pregnant.
well, she didn't return to Caemlyn. She didn't
No,
return to Andor.
I meant she returned
Right,
back
she
across the
returned-
spine of the world.
Right, yeah. She returned back to the Westlands.
Not to Westeros. That's a different place entirely.
Yes, but they both have West in the
Yeah,
name.
they do.
Dylan's father blames Guitarra Moroso for Tigraine's disappearance, and he's right.
But
So,
not for the reasons he thinks.
Right. Moroso is responsible for so much of this. She's responsible for Tigraine leaving. She's responsible for Swan and Moiraine going to find Rand. She's responsible for Morghese becoming Queen of Andor. She's responsible for Rand being born on Dragonmount.
Wow.
She's responsible for Rand being found there.
She's responsible for saving the world.
We'll see.
Well, right. I'll give you that, Adam.
This is why Tame is wrong, and given a couple of small tweaks, he could be the Dragon Reborn, is because look at how many things fold in on themselves revolving around Rand and Guitarra Moroso. Look at how interlocked all of this
is. It's not small things. It's a cavalcade of things. Once again,
it's good. It's gears.
He is right in the fact where he says that history rewrites prophecy, or whatever the phrase he uses it. Like, who's to say that if he hadn't done X, Y, Z, the world wouldn't think?
Right.
But just because the world doesn't think doesn't mean that something didn't actually happen.
We as readers know what is interpreted and what is fact. And these are facts.
Right. Indisputable facts.
It took 6 books for this to finally be hashed out.
Fairly casually. I mean, it's just a conversation that takes
really
place.
Eager to relay this information by any means. Rand has to sort of pull it out of her.
Yeah.
She doesn't
only like 2 paragraphs.
She's not really that eager to talk about it.
Well, she doesn't know the guy. This is the first time she's really met and had a conversation with him.
Not only that, but I mean,
and not only that, you're gonna be like, he's volatile. Who knows how he might react to this?
I don't think the Andorans are that eager to talk about Tigraine's disappearance either, though. I think it's one of those things because that led to the transition from Damodred to Trakand. That led to the transition, and that was a very difficult time in Caemlyn and in Andor, that transition, because you had all these different houses who were fighting for their claim. So it's not a great time in Andor, and it's fairly recent. I mean, it's like, just a little over 20 years old. Oh, and that's the other thing. Yeah, that's the other thing is that whole transition is what led to Laemon cutting down the tree to build his throne, which is why the Aiel came over in the first place.
I mean, so many things spun out of this.
Laemon Damodred. There's just layers upon layers of this, and they all interlock with each other.
By the way, that little storytelling segment is one of my favorite mic drops in this series. Something we completely did not even mention in that was Luke.
Right, because we talked about him.
This was the confirmation of it, though.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, that's massive.
That looks like him. Yeah.
And not only that, but who Luke is. Luke is related to Rand.
Right. Yeah.
He's his half brother.
Not only that, Rand is related to,
which is why they look like each other.
Gawain and Galad.
No, Rand is related to Galad. Rand is related to Galad. Rand is not related to Gawain.
He is a step-brother of Gawain.
He has no blood relation. He has no blood relation to
Right, but how's this going to... Well, he doesn't have blood relation, but by marriage he does.
Right.
So how's that going to play out? Like, that's like Gawain, the Nancy Pants boy who's driving us all crazy because he's being misled by everybody else and is so easily swayed by everybody else and wants to kill Rand because he thinks his mother is dead, who's not. Oh, by the way, that's your stepbrother.
This is why the blood thing matters, because he's not related by blood to Elaine.
And not only that,
but this still is strange.
I mean, think about Luke for a second.
The guy has 3 lovers ostensibly, Adam. That's strange. We're already in strange land.
We've got Luke, who is the brother of Tigraine, who we had the prophecy earlier, the dark prophecy that said Luke went off into the Blight.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happened to him happened to him.
Right.
He's come back and he's haunting Perrin.
And Teleron Riod, right.
And in the real world, he's whatever the heck his name is. And that's why he keeps thinking he looks like Rand.
Right.
Because he's related to Rand. This was the confirmation of everything we were discussing earlier.
Before.
Yes, we discussed it before, but this is the proof.
Right. This proves our hypothesis.
Yeah. Which is, once again, to me, a groundbreaking moment.
This proof is also only by someone that's observing it.
What?
This proof is only by
Dylan?
Dylan. The fairly reputable Dylan.
She's not observing it. It's known history.
It's fact. Yeah.
She doesn't interpret anything here.
Okay.
She's just giving him the raw data.
This is just known history. It's Rand who realizes that this woman is his mother. Dylan doesn't
I'm going to
know
say
it.
he handles that pretty darn well.
Yeah, he does.
That
Yeah,
is
he
like
does.
an avalanche of information being dumped on you. You're related to all these people. Here's the history of how you came about. Like,
Yeah.
he's also got to deal with the fact that, and he's been dealing with the fact that Carrie and Tam, however, are not his real parents. And this is another
Well, he's already
nail in
dealt
that
with this
coffin.
before.
Yeah,
Yes.
but,
I mean, he's
but
already
this is
dealt
like,
with
this is the
with
actual,
this
Adam, this
kind
is
of
the
same
actual
information
facts.
before.
He's thought about
Yeah.
it. Now he's given the actual facts.
Yeah.
No, I know, but he did this with a whole group of people that he had never had any sort of relationship with before.
He did
And had
this.
to be like, oh wait, here's your history that you know nothing about.
But now he's like, here's the people you actually know. Here's who your real parents are.
Sure.
Luke, I'm
Sure.
your father. I
Well,
mean,
and it
that's
brings
basically
something
what
up
this
that
is.
he probably hasn't thought about in some time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really tough
wackadoo.
spot that he's put in here.
Yeah, I was not expecting this at the beginning of the book. I was kind of blown away. I thought it was too much too soon.
6 books
So
in.
Right.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. It's different information that we learned this book than the first time that we learned about his heritage. So I don't know if it's going to be different 3 books from now. So
This is mind-blowing story writing. This is so well crafted and so good. This is connect the dots, crazy stuff. Like Jordan has concocted this whole lineage, and the way he's crafted this is such masterful storytelling.
It's tucked away in here in a really interesting place at a really interesting moment. Another piece of history that we get is Herod Fell's sort of laying out for Rand how the Wheel of Time works. Adam, you referenced earlier that the last battle is not the end of things. And what Fell is talking about is the fact that the world that they live in, time is a giant loop.
Yep.
Tarman Gaiden is the end of the world for these people. It's just not the end of the world for the entire world
the
itself.
universe, yeah.
Right, exactly. So we've gone back and forth on this trying to figure out what age we're in. We're in the 3rd age. We're at the end
Oh, I
of...
thought we weren't yet.
No.
I thought
We're in
the
the
third
third
age
age
was
going
started
towards the
after
fourth
I
that.
thought
age.
maybe we were in the 4th age, but we're not. We're in the
We're in the
3rd
third going
age.
towards the fourth.
The death of Luz Theron ends the 2nd age, which is the Age of Legends, I think.
I wonder what this age is going to be called. The Age of Rand.
Doesn't it seem like it's all a repetition though?
The Age
That
of the
it's all
Dragon. Well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point that
Yeah.
What's His Face is making is there isn't really a final battle
Yeah.
because it's all going to come back around again.
Well,
Just kind of like Rage Against the Machine. It's coming back around
coming
again.
back around again.
This is for the people of the Aiel.
still, these moments are authentic for these people. The circularity of the way that the world works doesn't really have that great of an impact on, how these people live their lives.
Everyday people.
This is really being delivered by an academic who is interested in this kind of things and is a fascinating character in his own right, and somebody that Rand actually
Absolutely.
enjoys having around because the guy doesn't actually know who Rand is.
Yeah,
Hey, he keeps forgetting that he's the
that's
dragon.
which is great. But Rand loves that. He loves the fact that he can have an honest, candid conversation with the guy and not be
Yeah.
concerned about it being colored by the fact of who he is in station.
So he's the intellectual now that is being presented. That's
Yeah.
up in his tower.
Or in the room. The room.
The
Is
room
he
with-
replacing
the
the
room with the
Ogier
bad view.
with their intellectual?
It's like the room. It's like the room inside of a ship where you open up your curtains and it's a wall. You're on the
It's
cruise ship.
Merlin. It's up in the tower.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're right. There's a reason why he's up in the tower.
In Morte Arthur.
It's sort of a reference to the ivory tower of academia. He suggests that the Dark One's prison has to be sealed by the time the third age returns. So there's this conversation about how it all works. And he talks about the fact that, well, it doesn't really matter whether or not the Dark One breaks free from his prison, because by the time the third age rolls around, that prison has to be sealed because that's the way the third age works. And I thought that there was an interesting dichotomy between Fell's belief of this and Jordan's actual theme of how heroism works and how stories play out. because one of the driving purposes of this book, of this series, is to show that history is a creation of a bunch of different people acting in their own self-interest for the most part, and acting in moments of need. And
Need.
And that it's human behavior that drives history. And Fell is almost suggesting that it'll just take care of itself because that's the way the Third Age needs to start, is with the Boar sealed.
Well, he's just following the lines of logic of what's been previously presented. And Jordan is trying to make us think outside of the structural confines of traditional logic, I think.
It's the difference between reading a story and reading a history text for sure. But Rand is like, well, what would happen if we just crushed all of the seals and let the Dark One out? And Fell is like, well, I mean, eventually it would just get sealed by itself. And he doesn't really seem to care about exactly how that would occur or how difficult or impossible that might be.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's brought up here, yeah. Harriet also says that the creator could have just created a world that the seal was already there with the Dark One already sealed in it, I suppose.
And not only that, Rand also throws in the whole, well, unless the Dark One wins. He's like, well, yeah, there is that.
Well, yeah. Well, there's that.
And time gets shattered.
It apparently has never happened before.
Actually, there's suggestion that maybe it did.
But if it did, this timeline wouldn't exist.
Well, that's arguable.
Okay, I guess that it can be arguable, except for the fact that if the timeline was shattered, if the Dark One was truly freed, there would be no one left to fill him back in because he would eradicate everything.
That would be a whole other story.
Right. Yeah, we would not have this Wheel of Time story.
We could have this Wheel of Time story, and it could end with the Dark One beating Rand, and then that would be another set of stories as to how things reset themselves. And that's one of the things Rand is trying to figure out. And one of the points that Rand is trying to make.
Before, though, like why it keeps going on and on and on. And now this is the first time that someone else has come into it that'd be like,
We've had a couple of conversations about how the Wheel of Time works and what it is.
Yeah, and this is the first character to actually come into it and be questioning it, or just being like...
Well, he doesn't question it, he just lays it out. Rand is questioning it. One of the other things that Rand questions and that they talk about is, and this is something that Lews Therin has been hinting at for a while, is what happens if you just break all the seals and deal with the Dark One right away? Like,
well, Lews Therin's there in his mind, tell him to do that all the time. So
he is, and we've written it down to just sheer madness at this point, but there's some suggestion here that maybe there's some logic to it.
Right. I truly believe that, right or wrong, and it may be completely wrong, Therin is not just saying that out of madness, and he is, but I feel like the madness is born out of something that he knows that we don't know. And once again, that could be something completely bad. But the great response is he brings that up, and Herod's like, why would you want to do that? Don't do that. And that's literally everyone's reaction. Rand's holding the seal up in his head, and Bashir's like, maybe you don't want to do that.
Right.
And everyone else
reacts
that way.
Yeah, but Herod also said that he didn't think that they could be broken, and clearly they can.
Right, clearly they can't.
Well, nobody thinks they can be broken. They're made of Quendiar.
Right, and as we're seeing, the Dark One has tainted the world so much that Quendiar doesn't mean jack squat anymore.
Well, Quendiar does, but for some reason, these seals
things are
don't.
Breaking all the time. They're not safe at all.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's what we don't know is what we don't know. And what we don't know is that a logical thing, or is it madness, or is it, is Therin, who may or may not be a construct of Rand's reality, or maybe the separate entity, which you all think he is a separate entity. But is he crazy?
Yeah, this would suggest that he's not. And I will be interested to see how this logic develops. What's my motivation? So let's talk about these characters. And these last couple of chapters, Rand has really seen some of the changes between how he relates with some of his friends. And we get a lot of development regarding each of the major women in these chapters and Rand, along with some others. So we were talking about Egwene a little bit. Let's talk about what Egwene's major driver is right now. She's trying to get the wise ones to recognize that she's recovered from her confrontation with Lanfear. She's supposed to be an Aes Sedai, but she's not. And Luckily for her, because otherwise she wouldn't be able to lie to the Aes Sedai about the bowl needing a man to channel.
Right.
And so she goes to Rand to have Rand convince the Wise Ones that she's okay and can re-enter the world of dreams. Is Rand really going to be able to convince the Wise Ones to let Egwene into Tel'aran'rhiod?
I don't know.
How much contact have they had at this point to be able to have that relationship?
I don't think enough. I think I don't know why she thinks that he's going to be able to make this big of a difference. She goes out of her way to visit him.
But they are still friends.
Yes, but she goes out of her way to visit him and blurts like this need that she has for him to do this. Like she's desperate for this to happen.
I mean, she's got this fear of the Wise Ones and what's going to happen and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, if you got the backing of the Dragon Reborn, that's a good chip to take to the Wise Ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the three of us can agree that Rand is not going to make a dent in what the Wise Ones intend to do with
No,
Egwene.
but she seems to think it'll make a difference.
Maybe it's just her desperation.
Yeah, which apparently she is desperate.
Her motivation at this point, she just wants to learn as much as she can. She's also frustrated over the fact that the Wise Ones are teaching her very slowly. That's Egwene. Oddly enough, it's Egwene and Nynaeve. They're just going to do whatever they want to do and learn whatever they want to learn despite anybody's caution and warning. And I really hope that at some point that ends up burning both of them. Because while I do agree that the Wise Ones are frustrating in their controlling manner, they know more than Egwene, and she just doesn't seem to care. And she's wandering into this world that she still doesn't really know the limitations or dangers of. She simply thinks she does, but she doesn't know what she doesn't know.
Yeah, she constantly does that.
All right, so let's talk about Nynaeve's motivation. We're getting a lot more of Nynaeve's block recently. Does anyone think that maybe we will see it resolved in this book?
I would love that.
I don't know about in this book. I sure hope so.
I doubt it, but I would love it.
We're seeing some interesting work being done on the block in the part of Saladar. I mean, they're doing all sorts of crazy things to try to break that down.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's getting anywhere.
I don't feel like it's getting anywhere either, but it's been one of those things
she's still Nynaeve from the block.
Right.
It's been one of those things that we've known about, but now it's getting
played.
seriously addressed. It's a storyline now, and it's going to get resolved.
If it doesn't get resolved, it's like the biggest tease of all times and the biggest waste of talent of all times.
Yeah.
Like,
it's going to get resolved.
The potential that never materializes would be so disappointing. Right. She's the strongest that's never going to be strong unless she's mad.
Well, but that's the nice thing about it is that you have this competing element that keeps her from being just a deus ex machina. Other than Rand, clearly, the thing that can just swoop in and save everyone at any given moment because she's so powerful.
I don't think that Elaine and Egwene are that far off either, though, from her. She's just that much more, you're saying?
Well, Eric, that's why I would say that I don't know if it would end right now, because it seems like, well, Rand is really powerful, and the books keep going on. But I feel like Jordan does shore up things fairly quickly sometimes, but this has been going on for a while. I feel like he could just keep it going on for a couple more books.
I mean, that's entirely possible.
You are correct in the fact that the training for it is more obvious right now.
And I wonder...
So hopefully it gets shored up. Hopefully it gets fixed.
I wonder if part of that is...
It would be nice.
Well, now she's actually with... Before, she was in the tower and everyone was just kind of poo-pooing her because she's a welder. When she was in the tower and she was...
Oh, yeah.
You got to go through this system. You got to go through this system. You got to go through this system. Otherwise, if you don't go through this system, all hell is going to break loose. Now, the system has broken down, but they still got elements of it in Saladar, but she's done all this stuff and accomplished all this stuff that they think, of course, a lot of the discoveries they've made are on the behalf of a Forsaken, but that's, they don't know that. So now they're just seeing the potential that she has without having to put her through the quote-unquote caste system, if you will. I mean, we know she's going to have to do certain things to become an Aes Sedai, but I feel like the subterfuge has really benefited the girls, and especially Nynaeve. Now they're like, okay, now that we know you can do things, we really need to break that down even further. We really need to get rid of that block in order to make you reach your potential. And so they're not hung up on as much, once again, with the caste system as they are hung up on what's stopping you. I don't know if that's what's motivating Nynaeve. I think that's what's motivating them about Nynaeve. What's motivating Nynaeve has, to me, and Adam, to answer your question earlier, has certainly changed. At first, it was she's going to become an Aes Sedai to punish all the people that hurt Rand and the boys. And
Well,
whatnot.
first it was just to get Moiraine.
No.
Oh, yeah.
First it was the boys. Then it became about Moiraine. It was one then the other. Now Moraine's dead. She feels bad about that. She feels, and I think she's gotten over her need for
Let's hope
revenge.
Moraine's not dead.
Well, yes, I'm fairly certain she is. But
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm throwing it out there to the world. Please don't let Moiraine be dead.
So, the only rebirths that we've seen so far have been on the dark side, and that's not good. So we don't want that for Moiraine.
Right.
But
Well, she went down with the dark. Like two. If it's
one
a,
for two,
if it's a
you're
2
hoping
for
for a
1, I'm
trade.
fine.
Yeah. So I think she's let go of that hatred of Moiraine. I think that was starting to happen before she died. I think now that she's gone, I feel like she feels guilty about that hatred, and so now it's the healing. Like she wants.
Yeah, that
to
is
become,
interesting how that's popping
And
up.
Lan.
Well,
Waiting for Lan.
is that a life driver, or is that just a? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, if she was dying, it would be one of the things that she would cling to.
She wants to be the healer. She wants to cheat death is one of the things she wants to do. She wants to find a way to do that. She wants to find a way to heal the things that can't be healed and do things that no one else has ever done. She has to get past her block to do that, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Well, not really. Just get really ticked off.
All the time.
Right, all the time, which doesn't seem to be a problem
Right.
for her most of the
It
time.
seems
She's
to
pretty
be.
cranky,
Yes.
you know, but
Yeah. This is going to be a very
It
different
is
series
interesting,
once
though, Eric,
this
that
gets
you're asking
overcome.
about that you're asking about motivation, because maybe her motivation will change now, and she will actually focus on being able to stop this block.
right. What happens
Although
when she breaks the block and meets up with
person
Lamb?
that she talked to that had her block stopped, it was stopped in a very weird way, right?
Yes, it was stopped
It
involving
seems fairly easy.
romance.
Oh, the other
It
girl.
seems fairly easy to stop a
Right.
block.
It seemed like a
No,
pretty good
it's-
amount of work that
it's
other girl
not.
had to
No,
do.
it seemed pretty fast. That way she described it.
Yes.
Seemed pretty fast.
She's saying once you break through, that's it. You're good.
Right.
Like it just requires a breakthrough. It's a zero-sum transition. It's all or nothing. And right now she's at nothing as
She said
far
nothing.
as
Yeah.
being blocked
But
goes.
that's what I'm saying. What happens? Who is she when she gets
the
together
most
with Lan and the
powerful
block
Aes
is done?
Sedai.
Well, then maybe she's just driven by the healing.
I would say hopefully she's learned a little bit, because in the past, if she were that powerful and able to do it, then things would have turned out pretty poorly.
Probably.
Well, right, and she's already
Or she ends up
demonstrated.
like Rand trying to heal the dead person and bring the dead marionette back to life, which was
Sure.
bad for everyone.
Well, I mean, I understand that.
She also has demonstrated a lack of ability to cooperate with anyone and to just think that she is the only person
Yeah,
with
no
a good
kidding.
idea and just do whatever she wants. Now imagine that person is the most powerful witch or most powerful sorceress in the world. That doesn't
could
make
be
for a
really
good
bad.
combination.
I think the good thing with
Her
Nynaeve
personality
is
could
that
change
she.
entirely.
I will say, I feel like she's gotten.
She could get so power hungry.
That's definitely not in her character.
Right. She doesn't need to be power hungry because she just operates as if she's the most important and powerful person in her immediate circle.
I think that's lessening.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're correct. It's not power hungry. It would be she would be power happy.
Right. Yes.
I do feel like that's
Decreasing.
decreasing. I mean, how many times have we talked about her becoming less annoying?
I think so too.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think.
But
so
I think
too.
she
it's
still
just-
has some
yeah.
growing up
been
to
a
do
good
before
development.
Yeah, 100%.
this.
So this is growing up.
Before we leave Nynaeve, what do you think about her experience with the Link when she links up with all of the other Aes Sedai as they wander through Saladar trying to get rid of the bubbles of evil? I thought it was really interesting that she's able to allow Saidar to flow through her without needing to be angry. And she experiences that sense of awe and calm. Man, imagine a calm Nynaeve. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Right.
Right. It's incredible. I feel like she felt like she was alive for the first time. That's totally important. You are right. That's important to put in there because she feels that and she knows what it feels like now. Although, do you feel like the people that were also surrounding her that felt this, it was stronger than when they touched the power on their own?
They're too busy thinking about it being an attack from Samael and not listening to anybody else.
when you're linked, I think you're capable of channeling more than when you're not linked. If that's what you're asking, Adam.
Like either way, she gets to experience that for the first time. So she's never experienced that before, correct?
Nope.
Now she knows what it could feel like on her own.
She knows what it feels like on her own to channel.
Kinda, though, but she has to be in a certain sense. So I would imagine it would be diminishing in some sense.
I don't think that channeling on her own is going to result in this euphoria. I think that this was an experience, this Zen is an experience of a communal, because it's a communal sharing of the one power. But perhaps
so then it would be different for Okay.
But perhaps she can learn something from the experience. Elaine has some interesting, conflicting thoughts going on in her head. She's determined to wait for Tom and Julian to return from their mission. So, like, Nynaeve would really like to leave. She's worried about being found out from listening in at windows, and she's getting sick of these lessons and trying to break the block, and she's ready to leave, but Elaine doesn't want to leave. So that bond between Elaine and Tom is keeping Elaine there and keeping Nynaeve there.
And I think it's more than just the bond to Tom. I think that's a bit of her, and maybe we'll see, since she thinks her mother's dead. I think
and that's bond with a lowercase b.
Right. I think it's queen to subject, however you want to say it, princess to underling, whatever. It's the loyalty of a servant to a leader. And I
between
feel like,
Elaine and Tom?
Yeah. And but I'm saying it's beyond just Tom. Julian also.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like we're seeing more and more of Elaine starting to take on loyalty. Like, these people are loyal to her. Julian's loyal to her beyond Tom. Julian's loyal to her because he sees her as loyalty. A leader or whatnot. I could be completely wrong. I feel like we keep seeing glimpses of Elaine as a leader. Because we know that's where this is going. Rand wants her to be the queen. He wants her to be the queen of Andor.
Cairhien and Cainlan. Cairhien and Andor.
So I feel like maybe this is glimpses we're getting of her commanding loyalty to them. Tom obviously has, that special relationship with her because of how they grew up, but Tom also has a special relationship to her because of who she is also. She is the daughter of the queen. She is a princess. So I feel like that plays into it. Maybe not all of it, but it's going to be a part of that there. We're talking about motivation from Elaine. That is another thing she wants to do. She thinks her mother's dead. She's got to step in and be queen. So her role is beyond just being an Aes Sedai now. Now she's got tower trained to be a queen. The queens of Andor, they went to be tower trained to have that loyalty between Andor and
Do you think, though, that she should... Do you think that she should actually become an Aes Sedai before she becomes queen, though?
I think it would probably be very beneficial. I don't know if we've got time.
I mean, we do have time because her mother is alive.
We know that. They don't know that. So I don't know if we have time.
Someone else has to find that out.
And not only that, her mother's still alive and in the clutches of the devil. So that's not a good start.
I agree with all of the leadership stuff regarding Elaine. I don't think that there's any doubt that she's prepared and ready to be a leader, and those leadership skills, especially on the political side, are going to be really beneficial for Rand. The only thing that I would quibble with
those have been there.
We know that the relationship between Elaine and Tom, there was a small misinformed romance budding there for a period of time. And while that has eroded...
I think it's still there.
I think it's gone for the most part, but I think that what we're seeing here, this sense of responsibility for him or concern about him and wanting to keep him around, wanting to keep him close, is a holdover from that. Is the way?
I think it's
the way that I
like
read.
A father-daughter type thing.
So it's gone from daddy to daddy.
Right, father-daughter. Yeah,
sure.
As opposed to
I'm scared for you.
Here's an interesting thought that occurred to me while I was reading this. Couldn't the bond with Alana be something that could be passed to Elaine and be a convenient solution to her desire to bond Rand, so that she doesn't have to be the bad guy that defies convention and bonds Rand, but now it can simply be a passing of Alana, who bonded Rand, who shouldn't have in the first place, to somebody who now can be a more benevolent holder of the bond?
Do you think Alana would do that, though? Do you think she would give that up?
I don't see Alana doing that. ever.
I don't see Alana
Yeah, I don't
doing
see
it
that happening.
willingly, but if Elaine was important enough, I can see Alana not given a choice.
Well, you'd have to catch her first.
Alana?
Yeah. I feel like
Is she really fast?
I feel like she'd spirit herself away. I mean, she seems to have had a good instance up until this point of not being around anywhere.
Well, she's always around Farron. I mean,
she's boot scooting.
Right, and Varen's certainly not always there.
No.
They just appeared after being gone for a long period of time.
that's true. I mean, there would have to be some logistics. I just think from a story standpoint, this seems like one of those things that is a convenience for this thing that I always thought was really weird and selfish that Elaine wants. And now she can get it in a way that could even be spun as a positive.
You think it's selfish that Elaine wants to bond Rand?
Yes. Yeah.
She loves Rand.
Okay.
Rand loves her.
Okay.
Why would that be selfish? It's a mutual love. They would want to share that with each other.
Well, there's a big difference between being in love
Yeah,
with
do you
somebody
think
and,
that-
and bonding
I-
them. Those are two
What do
totally
you think
different things.
what do you think her motivations are for wanting to bond Rand then, Eric?
I don't
not
think we've
typically.
seen any
Sure,
evidence
but
of
I'm
Rand
asking-
being thrilled about being bonded by anyone. I think he doesn't like the idea of bonding in the first place.
The definition of selfish has to do with individual self-interest,
Oh,
not
that's-
shared with another person. I think she wants to share an experience with Rand. Elaine wants every bit of
Rand?
Rand she can get because she is so
Sure.
head over heels with him
Yeah.
that she wants to share every single aspect. And it's not from a,
Rand has also spent about 2 weeks with this woman.
I think Elaine would have to do a lot of talking to Rand to convince him to be bonded by her.
that's different. Convincing Rand is one thing,
I
but her
agree
intentions
with
are
that.
pure.
I
And what
agree
you're
with
trying
that,
to imply
Eric,
is that
but
her
I also
intentions are
agree with-
selfish and
I
not
don't-
pure.
Hey,
no,
I don't think
no,
it's
I'm not
selfish.
trying. I am
think
not
it's-
trying
yeah,
to
I don't think it's selfish.
imply that her intentions are not pure. I think that she wants to do something.
You need
I-
to find a different word than selfish then.
She's not thinking of whether or not Rand would want this at all.
I don't know that I agree with you there.
I don't think she's thinking of whether or
Because I think
not
she would
Rand
have a
would
conversation
want it,
with
but I
Rand.
think she is thinking that it would protect Rand if she were able to do that. That's what she's
Right.
Sure.
And that's one of the themes of this book is people's desire to protect each other and how that is a conflict often.
Elaine is a type that would not do what Alana did. Elaine is a type that would talk with Rand and say, hey, I want to share this with you.
It's the thought itself. Like she has not thought this through. And she's so
think she has.
insistent on this. There's no way Rand would want to do this at first blush. There's no way. Yeah, okay. We just disagree on the character of Rand.
Oh no, I agree with you that Rand would not want that.
I completely disagree. I wonder
I
if
don't think he's
Alana's going
fond
to
of
pick
that.
up on Luz
I
Theron
mean,
through the bond.
It feels like
yeah, that's spooky.
I would hope she would, because that would drive her crazy.
I don't want her to be driven crazy.
I do.
I
She
think what she
a
did is
very
wrong, but it's
bad thing.
important because they need to make sure
she
that
did
Rand
a
is
bad
okay.
thing.
But she did it. She did a very bad
Yes.
thing. Well, it's like you said. She did a bad thing for the right reasons,
The right reasons to her,
and probably the
relative
tower.
to her.
They
Yeah,
need to
and
make
for
sure
the
that Rand's
tower.
alive
For
to get to the
tower,
last battle. They need to because
Well,
let's all face
As
it.
if Rand can't do that on his own.
Well, Rand sucks at communication. He is the world's worst at communication.
I don't know what that has to do with
It has
whether
to do with everything
But also
because if
Rand-
he's dying, they need to know he's dying, and Rand would be like, "I'm
why
fine."
why does the tower need to know that he's
because
dying?
he has to make it to the last battle.
Well, can't the Aes Sedai help with that? Or can
How
not the
if
Aes
he
Sedai?
doesn't
Can't the
communicate?
Aiel help with that?
He
That are
communicates with
what
the
about the
Aiel
maidens?
just as well as he communicates. Are you telling me he's great at communicating with the Aiel?
Dave,
he doesn't have to
Dave,
be. They're all around him.
Yes, he
Dave,
does.
who
That's
communicates well in this book series?
the most important person to communicate out of anyone in this book series needs to be Rand. 100%. There's no argument about that because he's the most
Yeah, but
important
who
person. The Aes Sedai do. They communicate well. They have a
No, they
communication
don't.
system. They talk to each other. They get in their little committees and they talk to each other. The
They
Aiel do that same
don't,
thing with their
because they've been
leaders.
broken off into factions.
Yeah.
Their tower
But they still get
destroyed.
together and meet.
That's
Rand
what
doesn't
Rand-
communicate.
Rand communicates with
No, he orders.
No. He communicates with the Aiel. He communicates with Rourke.
When was the last time he communicated to them about how he was doing physically? When was the last time he communicated to anybody how he was doing mentally?
Oh,
So
no,
you're
he doesn't
suggesting
get
that the
personal.
Aes Sedai
No,
talk about
He
these
doesn't get
things in
personal,
their
but he gets-
meetings?
he gets
Like, none of
stuff
those
done.
things
He
get
gets
discussed.
so much
He's
stuff done.
been dying literally
He
at times.
You're right, Eric. He communicates a lot, but it's not. No one's actually speaking about.
Nobody's
how they're
talking about their
actually
personal feelings.
I'm not talking about personal feeling. I'm talking about his health. He has literally been dying at times in these books and has not told anybody. Now the Aes Sedai have a connection to be able to physically feel when he's dying. You can argue around this all you want.
That's
But
crazy.
that's really important.
I haven't thought about that. That's nuts.
They need to know this because he won't
I'm
communicate.
not sure I want the Aes Sedai to know.
Well, someone
when
needs
Rand
to.
is not doing. Somebody needs to. I'm not sure that I want the Aes Sedai to be those people.
Yeah.
Egwene,
I totally agree
Nynaeve,
with you, Eric. I do
Elaine
not
are
want.
all Aes Sedai.
Let's talk about Rand a little bit more. What do you think his purpose is for the school that he created? Remember, he's created this school where they're studying all these different technologies, basically.
I think he wants to leave something behind.
Yeah.
Rand's so convinced he's going to die, the prophecy, and that I think he wants to leave something greater because all he seems to be leaving at this point is death and destruction in his own mind. War, death, destruction, people just going crazy, him going crazy. And this is something that he can fund and he can help build something back, build something better. All that, phrase it as you want. Granted, it seems to be a lot of craziness right now, but machines that no one knows what they're doing and singeing people's fingers. But it
Engines
seems
and
like
light bulbs.
right. It
and
seems like the scientific revolution is happening, and he's funding it.
hot air balloons.
That's my take.
Well, a lot of it reminds me of when he went back and he learned the history of the Aiel and what were those the Gokers? What
The
are those flying cars?
Joe carts.
Joe carts.
The Joe car and that stuff. So maybe it's just the lingering
It does come from that.
experience that he had there that's just in his head.
It stems from the fact that he saw how much knowledge has been lost. I mean, they're living in a primitive society compared to the Age of Legends. When the Earth got torn apart, they lost all sorts of knowledge, and he's definitely is looking to hope to preserve some of that, and he's looking to preserve knowledge, right? Because he also has some scholars in that school as well.
He's been reading so much about this, like as we've talked about before. I feel like he's one of the most well-read folk in this world at this point. So he's been reading all that stuff. So it's really nice that he's able to put his energy into that. But it is strange in a sense that the end of the world is coming up fairly quickly, and he's kind of aware of it because he's here. So what is all this stuff going to do? It's just going to get lost again.
So he's working to preserve knowledge and to
Preserve and
generate
create.
Yeah.
and to generate technology. And it looks like, I mean,
I don't even know if he's wanting to create technology. I think these people are just doing it. Like he's just encouraging knowledge to come in. These people are coming with their own crazy inventions.
I don't know that he's pushing them in any specific direction.
It's already benefited him because that guy that was the one that made the telescope,
Tovir.
Kin
so it's already
Tovir.
benefited. He knew that guy.
And he's there at the school. One of the other things that seems to be driving him, in addition to his desire to leave something behind, this book seems to be a quest to defeat Samael. That seems to
And
be
the
his
Golden
major
Bees.
driver.
I
Right?
want
Well-
the Golden Bees to survive.
Is this book going to end with a battle with Samael? Is that where we're headed?
Seems pretty certain to me. But Samael apparently thinks they're
I
having a
don't know.
truce. So
See,
you know,
it's like
He's
for
trying.
me,
yeah.
it might be someone else. We're only at the beginning of it. Samael might just disappear.
To where? Wait, how is Samael going to... Do you think
Well,
Samael...
he might just fade away, and then we'll get focused on.
Does that seem like
Grendel or
Samael to
something.
you? The
Not
guy who
Grendel.
fades away?
How do we know it's actually Samael? It could be one of the other Forsaken pretending to be Samael for
Well,
all we
but
know.
we know that Samael is in Ilion, and that's where Rand
Oh.
is going.
Right, we know that.
Right.
But like the messenger sent
Yeah.
by Samael, or
I mean, that could be, but if it is Samael, it fits in with everything else that we've
right.
seen.
I'm just saying.
in the
we,
prologue.
If we know one thing about the Forsaken, it's that they're schemers.
Remember, we also know that they all want Rand to defeat Samael. Like they're trying to put Samael up against Rand.
Well, some of them are.
some of them are.
Grandel's
But at the
with
very
Samael.
least, they're operating under this plan that Samael is going to draw Rand's attention, and then somehow they're going to defeat him. both the bad guys and the good guys seem to want this to end up with a battle between Rand and Samael. So it seems to me that that's going to occur.
Yeah.
Whether or not it
That
occurs
is definitely
before the
true.
books end, I don't know. But the way these books work, that's how
Typically
they
seems
end.
to be like a
Yeah.
Forsaken battle.
Right,
Though in the 2 books ago, we had 2 Forsaken die
Well-
at the end of a book.
right. But it all happened at the end of
Right.
the book, not in the middle of
Yeah.
it.
And then 3 books ago, we had one pop up and then just not get destroyed at all.
Samael is a fairly conceited Forsaken. Elaine is consistently referring to Rand as conceited or full of himself, is what she thinks. Is that true? Is Rand really full of himself?
At times, I think he is. At times, I think
Conceited
he-
and
I-
full of himself?
At times, I think he gets very pompous.
You think he gets arrogant with people? Can you think of any examples? Because I think that Rand takes action swiftly in some cases, and because he knows that his decisions are so important and is used to people following him, he just does things and expects people to like follow him and do what he asks. It's out of a sense of duty. I don't think it's because he thinks that inherently he's better than anybody else.
No, but I feel like we're moving in that direction. We're seeing more instances of his self-assuredness is starting to creep over the line of confidence into arrogance. Sometimes when people who are in power, like you were saying, are so used to power just being handed to them, they begin to take it for granted and then they expect it. And when you start expecting it, it's very easy to become arrogant about that, especially when people resist against that. So I just have this feeling like that's where we're trending with Rand, because we've seen instances of this before with him being like really sullen, morose, getting really cranky with people. Back in like book 2, remember? Book 2 and 3, when he separated from everybody else who was trying to help him and he pushed him away. And my way's the best. I know what I'm doing. That is arrogance. So
I disagree that
We all
that's
hated
what
it back
happened.
then.
He got sulky. I don't think it was a my way is best. Remember, it was I need to get away from everybody because I'm dangerous and I might go crazy and bring thunder and lightning down and everything. So I need to be
and
away
I
from
know
everyone.
better than everybody.
I disagree. Yeah, I think it was he was trying to protect people. Because remember, he causes that earthquake, and then that's at the point that he decides
but
to take
instead
off.
of looking for help, he decided he knew it was better than everybody, and he went off on his own.
Well, they all do that, though, don't they? I
No,
mean,
they
Nynaeve, Elaine, they all make decisions and then go off and follow their own whims, and that's part of the
Nynaeve,
problem.
Elaine, and Egwene usually all talk to each other about the decisions they're going to make.
I don't think there's a lot of committee
I don't know
decisions
about that.
between
Oh,
those.
I
They
think
do-
there
they
is.
I think they
Look at the-
argue a lot over things.
Yeah, but they talk about, once again, coming back to Rand's lack of communication. And they're communicating. Look at the Bowl of Winds, for instance. They all got together.
Oh.
They all talked about it.
Well, I mean,
they
we
may have
can
argued.
come up with instances where, well, like I said, where Rand has talked
I'm
to other
not
people and
disagreeing
formed battle
with
plans.
you about Rand's lack of communication. That is a lot. But I don't know about arrogance.
I just don't think he's arrogant. And this book is full of these characters who want their own way.
I think it's just the way he presents things, because he sucks at communication. They're taking what you're saying, which I do agree
I don't
with.
think he presents a lot of stuff.
It's the way he says things. The way he comes across and says things is often brash and expecting people to obey because he doesn't
That's
communicate
true.
it well.
That's true.
And so she sees
Yeah,
that
that's
as
true.
arrogance.
That's how it comes across. I don't think he's.
I don't necessarily think he is, but I think we're moving in that direction.
Remember, he also has the greatest purpose out of everybody.
Someone has to save him at the end, we hope. That's part of the prophecy, but
It is?
about his blood being spilled, and yeah, there's prophecy in there about that.
About what?
Rand dying.
I don't remember that.
Oh,
I remember
I don't
there
at
being
this
some
point.
questionable stuff that suggests that maybe that's
Right,
the
that's what
case.
I'm referring to. When you've already made up your mind that you have an end goal and you already know you're going to die, you need to get your way because you know you have the right way. He is so focused on the prophecy
Yeah, he's focused.
that he doesn't want anything to get in his way of the prophecy. And so he will, it's almost Machiavellian, and the ends are going to justify the means. And I feel like we're starting to get to the means are becoming whatever it takes. And whatever it takes is eventually, or could eventually, become arrogance. Now, right now, I think it's just like we were saying, his presentation. His presentation sucks. And so it's rubbing people the wrong way, namely the people who love him. Is it all on his part? No. I feel like she's a little bit sensitive to the things that he says. Now, Egwene will experience this with also, though. She says the same things about Rand.
Right. And most notably, it's the women who do this. It is one of the things that Jordan is
Matt's
doing.
too busy trying to run away from him. So,
I mean, Matt and Perrin don't talk about Rand's arrogance.
they're not feelings-driven people.
I don't know that
Well, Matt and
Perrin's
Perrin
not a
don't
feelings-driven
Matt and
person.
Perrin don't talk to each other, really.
Right.
Not now, right. Speaking of
That's very
communication
weird.
with Rand, it's only been a few chapters since Moiraine's death, but her advice has loomed pretty large over these last 2 chapters on how Rand has interacted with the nobles.
Yeah. Yep.
So that some
She's
places
been
arrogance
popping up
isn't
everywhere.
causing a problem. He was willing to accept her advice and recognize that somebody knew more about this stuff than he did, and he's been using it to
That took a
good effect.
whole heck of a lot for him to get there.
It did, yes. But he's there.
Let's hope it sticks.
I'm beginning to get the sense that David does not have a lot of faith in Rand.
I just feel like we're seeing cracks in the surface that can be manipulated. and
Well, we're
it's
seeing cracks in
concerning.
the psyche, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't like this. He is the one person in this entire world that has been so screwed over.
Really? Why?
He was just born, and then he becomes this thing, and he discovers it when he's 19 or 20.
He discovers
Or 18.
the fact that he's the one that's going to save everybody. That's not screwed over.
No, he's not. He doesn't know if he's going to save everybody. All he
Well,
knows
I mean,
is that he's going to cause the end of the world. He
so
did it there
far-
at the last bottle.
So
That
far,
pop-
he's done some pretty darn good things.
Butthole.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I know, but
Yep.
he's done some great stuff.
And you got a
but
crazy man in your
hasn't-
head.
It hasn't
Yeah.
dealt well for him mentally.
I
He's having
suspect that.
serious mental problems.
Yeah, I suspect that if Rand was given a choice to like go back and not be the Dragon Reborn, I think he would choose not to be the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, I don't think he would take that adventure. I think he'd be like, I'm going to go back.
Because he's doing all this stuff out of a sense of duty, not out of a sense of like, yes, I can do
But
this.
what would he go back to? Are you saying he'd go back
Well,
to
what is
not
he
having the
even
knowledge he
enjoying
has
from
now?
these 3
Yeah.
quote unquote women that he's around? He's embarrassed about the fact that he had relationships with one of them.
Who doesn't
He's not
want,
even
who
talking
doesn't
to
want
her
him?
anymore.
Who's at least acting that way?
But otherwise, he's stuck back in
No
the two
good.
top, the
He's,
two
he's
rivers
not living.
with.
He's not
his
living
dad.
large in this.
Right.
sense
Who he
that
seemed
should
totally like he loved the Two Rivers. He's not Matt.
No, it would just be a question of, do you forget? You never have the memories.
Right, that's what I'm
all stripped
suggesting.
away.
Yeah. You don't know what you've lost.
Then you're just a farmer and a shepherd. Which
Sure.
how disappointing would that be for us as readers?
It just goes
But
to
we
show
weren't
that he
really
got
presented, like,
a crummy
honestly-
deal. He's not
Honestly,
really.
from the beginning,
There's positives
of
about it
Rand,
for sure.
We're not presented with someone that was. It doesn't seem like he's someone who's necessarily like, this place sucks.
No, I don't.
I don't think-
pick
because
up
I
on
don't think
regret
he's
or
really-
morose from Rand about his station in life at
I
this
don't,
point.
well, he's not really allowed a lot of time to think about like how great it is because every second he's trying to figure out what Forsaken am I battling next. I've got people plotting against me who are standing right next to me. I've got 3 women that I'm in love with. Why is that? What's going on there? How did that ever happen? He's got so many different problems that he's juggling that he doesn't get to stop and look around really. So let's wrap up with Samael and the guy Shine. So Samael sends the messenger to Rand with the frozen face and is trying to
I picture
to
like
get
the Joker
Rand
face.
is trying to get Rand to agree to an amnesty, right?
So strange. Is there some ulterior motive we don't know? Is he trying to form an allegiance? Is he trying to buy time? Does it go back to what you were saying about maybe Samael knows everyone else is against him, so he's trying to get an ally in Rand? I mean, what is this?
Doesn't it seem like Samael is kind of panicking?
Maybe?
It seems that way to me. It seems
Yeah.
seems like a little bit of a panic move. It might be a ploy, but it doesn't really buy him any more time.
I don't know how it's a ploy. What's the ploy for? Rand's just like, what are you doing?
Right. His idea of requesting an amnesty with Rand is to send somebody that he's possessed with his voice and frozen the guy's face. I mean, he really thinks that Rand's going to be like, oh yeah, this is totally acceptable mode of communication. I'll talk to this frozen face guy with Samael's voice
Rand's
inside
like,
him,
bad,
who then
yeah.
dies in a bath of his own blood.
Creepy. Yeah, blood seeping out all his
great.
pores.
I mean, granted, that happens after Rand says no, but all the stuff leading up to Rand saying no also doesn't really help Samael's case.
I do not understand how this guy who is the leader of all these beings makes that decision.
this type of communication must have been really successful in the Age of Legends.
Oh, that's true. Well, it probably was. It probably was successful if you're not like meeting the guy who could end the world. Yeah, you're right. If you're just meeting with different heads of state, maybe they're like, whoa.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that he was trying to intimidate Rand with this maneuver.
Maybe.
But then he just doesn't know what's been happening because
Right. That's
Rand has killed his fellows.
well, he is aware that Rand's been plucking off his compatriots.
But this is such a weird move.
It's a dumb move. It's just an ill-advised, ill-executed maneuver.
Now,
I like the moment in the book, though.
Oh, it's great.
I will say,
it's great.
I don't buy Samael being stupid.
I don't either, which is
So
why
he's done this for a reason. What that reason is, I don't know, but I can guarantee you there's a reason.
What I feel like the only reason would be is to be like, I'm going to present this so that you think I'm soft. That's the only reason I feel like it could be accepted.
Right, to make him seem weaker than he really is. I agree that this definitely could be a ploy. The other thing is that it could just be Samael's standard mode of operation, and it worked for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it just doesn't work now. Rand is a different cat. He's not an arrogant, SOB. He's a
really?
caring.
That's what it is. It's just part and parcel. It's just what Samael does.
Yes,
He's never learned.
Right.
He's never had this experience before that someone was not impressed with this.
Well, not just not impressed, but that somebody would actually care about the fate of a messenger. Like, I think Samael is so used to using human beings as pieces on a board and used to treating with people who also think that way, that when he tries to do that with somebody who actually cares about common folk, it goes terribly awry. Not that Rand was ever going to agree to this treaty in the first place.
No.
But just the use of that messenger and the way that he treated that man was awful. Awful. That was an interesting episode. And then the last group that I wanted to kind of tackle here were the guys Shine. Not that, as a group they have a motivation, but there's a change going on in them now because some of them are deciding to refuse to stop being guys Shine and are doing so because they believe that was the original role of the Aiel, were servants, which we know is true. So is what they're doing wrong?
Not to get to whatever, but in today's society, you have people who are just mentally not as strong as others. And maybe those people are those who have just been like, I can't handle the reality of what our nation has become, so I'm just going to stick with this because this is better than me dealing with the fact that our entire society is not what we thought it was.
What if they're actually mentally stronger than everybody and they recognize that this is who we were supposed to be? We drifted away from this and I'm going to adhere to the truth of who we were to be.
That is true. That's who they were supposed to be. That's where they found their most comfort.
So you want them to become a Tuatha is what you're saying?
I don't have an opinion one way or the other on
they're
who
thinking
they should be.
Should become that again.
But,
that's how they're acting.
Who was your Coplin of the week, Adam?
Mine is Egwene for going inside of dreams of another person.
She got sucked in.
Yeah, she didn't go
in.
She got
to go in.
No, she didn't.
She went in there and she stayed there for too long. She was completely aware of the fact that she could have gone, and she actually thought it to herself that, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here. And then she just stayed there.
She stayed there, but there was a certain point where she wanted to avoid that bubble that was approaching her, and she couldn't.
She was scared of the bubble until she realized what the bubble was. Also, that's really fast that she just decides to love him instead of his brother.
There have been hints. But
there have been hints.
It did seem a bit
I've been
abrupt.
Talking about those hints, but
right. Yes, I will agree with you that
I
don't feel like we had enough instances for us to all of a sudden be like, "Oh, that makes
sense." For her
to
all of a sudden be like, this is my comfort."
Well,
but anyhow,
now we know
she's an absolute creep for just sitting in there.
She's a creep.
She is.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
That's like checking your partner's phone.
Oh, so bad. But you're supposed to have that open level of trust, Adam.
Well, if you do, that's fine. It's like checking your partner's phone without them knowing.
Right.
It's so gross. It's so gross.
Yeah. It's called an invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
But there is no privacy amongst love, Adam.
And then this is Robert Jordan's way of being like, oh, no, now Egwene's in love with this guy.
Yes. Well,
Interesting
yes.
choice, Adam. Interesting.
My Copland of the week was Samael.
We know this.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so on brand. I love it.
Yours was what?
Why is Samael your?
You didn't. I need a better example.
he's
An
not-
He
explanation of
tortured
this.
that
not really there that
dude and then destroyed him in a pool of his own blood. I don't know that I need any more than that. What he did to that guy was just wicked.
Yeah, but he wasn't really around.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
But
we
I agree.
literally had no interaction with him other than that.
Well, that was
Okay,
enough.
Yeah, that's enough for you.
I mean, if you don't think
Well,
it's that
I'm
bad,
not
we'll
gonna
just
argue
let him
with you about
torture
it.
you,
It
and
just-
you can die in a
just-
pool
I
of
mean,
your
it'll be
own
very
blood.
difficult to do since I'm in real life. But mine, it was the Aes Sedai women not listening to Egwene and Nynaeve in the beginning when they were firmly trying to convince them these are bubbles of evil. This is not an attack from Samael, and they kept poo-pooing them. No, it's Samael. We've been preparing for this. It's the pancake breakfast. We do it every week. Like, they're totally just, like, not listening to a word those girls are saying, and those girls are dead right.
Yeah.
And then at the
I
end, they're
agree
kind of
with
like,
you.
oh.
I have a question though. Do you think
Well.
that they've ever in their lives experienced that before?
No, they certainly have not.
I can't say that I know.
The only other time that we know that it's happened, it happened to Rand and Matt and Perrin in the Stone of Tyr.
That's not to say
I mean,
it's not happening all throughout
Right,
the world.
right, yes.
Because I'm sure it is.
Right. We're led to believe that it is occurring. I should say the only time that we've seen it happen in this grade of detail is then. But we've heard references to the fact that it's happened throughout, these last 3 books or 4 books.
It drives me crazy when.
But that's what
those
the Aes
people-
Sedai do. They don't
Right,
listen
but
to
still,
people.
you can still suck for that.
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
And
I
They
think
don't
they do
listen to-
suck.
They don't listen to one another.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes
but-
they do, sure.
I think the bigger issue is it isn't that they don't listen, it's what they pick and choose what they don't listen to. Because they're obviously took the girls' advice on all these things they discovered and all these things explored because they could give an example and show a real world example. And you would think maybe since they've been through all this crazy crap that's gotten them there and they somehow survived, that maybe they might have a modicum of knowledge about what they were talking about
True
here.
though. It is true though. They're not Aes Sedai yet, and then you know what's going to happen? Elaine's going to figure out that new system to make them Aes Sedai
All right.
because they're not.
No, they're
At
not.
what point? Oh man, at what point are they going to become?
Who leveled up? Dave.
It's funny you're talking about this. We were talking about this earlier. I went with Nynaeve. I went to the specific instance of what you were talking about with the passing of the whatever it was when they got in the circle,
Yep.
and she was able to do that, and she's able to handle that. Obviously, we went with the Bowl of Winds, the need, and they got to where they're going. Ultimately, I went with Nynaeve.
Good chapters for Nynaeve for the most part.
I love it. I
mean,
love seeing Nynaeve.
Other than
love
the
it.
fact that it began with the fact that she clearly punched another woman in the face.
I love that. I was
Mhm.
all about that. Some of that good stubbornness of the two rivers.
I
was expecting
What
comment
a
about
great beginning to that chapter.
Woolen dress or whatever they always talk about her wearing. Stout
good
woolens.
woolens, yeah.
Have we met anyone else from another section of the world that is impressive as the people from the Two Rivers?
Elaine, the
Well,
Aiel.
yeah,
He
that's
said people because
The Aiel.
Oh, I guess there are 3 of them.
Well, how about
brother.
Davram Bashir and his daughter, Fail?
But they're nothing compared to the people from.
the Two Rivers who all have
The Two
supernatural
Rivers.
powers.
Yeah, and then also not to mention all the folk from the Two Rivers that have come into
Right.
the farm.
And all the women from the Two Rivers who are now headed off to become Aes
Yeah.
Sedai that Rand just
Yeah.
terrified. Boda
Cawthon.
Cawthon. My level up was Barrelane. I love what she's doing
Oh,
with Rourke and
Absolutely.
managing.
Even though she stuck her tongue out, basically.
Yeah, even
No,
though she
I-
acted like a
did.
child.
I love it.
Right.
I wish that Barrelane was Rand's third love.
Right, I know.
So does she.
I'm
well,
so
she
head
did.
over heels for Barrelane.
Me too. She's great. She was kind of awful when we first met her, but she's wonderful.
Well, I think there'll still be opportunities
Yeah,
for awfulness in the
yeah.
future.
Because she was asking about Perrin and
She's
Matt
right.
for not really good reasons.
Right?
Oh, she's definitely asking a lot about.
She's
yeah.
still a
She's still a bit of a
huge flirt.
floozy. Yeah.
Huge flirt.
floozy. Why are you saying that? Maybe she's just enjoying her time.
I mean, a lot of floozies would say that probably. She's just like Elaine, except way more flirtatious.
Which Elaine is
but
not.
she's also incredibly capable. And
Right.
we get
Yeah,
to
that's what I
actually
mean.
see
I
that.
am
Yes.
in Camp Barrelane for sure, but I am also recognizing of the fact of what part of her character is and what part of her character is not.
So that's mine was Bearlane. Who you got, Adam?
Mine's just the school of is it
Hard Knocks?
Kyrian? The school of Kyrian?
I don't know what it's called, but
That Rand
the school that's
creates.
in
I think it's
Kyrian,
called
yeah.
the School of Kyrian, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's in Kyrian. I think it's just called the school, but you can call it the new school.
The school
Well, no.
Jagger.
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry. It's a conglomerate that levels up for me because there's a printing press.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's some machine.
Gutenberg.
Right. Pre-Gutenberg.
Oh well, yeah. There's a machine too that's just going to be Tesla.
And it seems like
Right.
they're building a hang glider.
A balloon, a hot air balloon.
No, there's a hot air balloon,
Yep.
and then
And
there's a hang glider.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that school's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
And then they're
It's
they're
really
burning
cool,
methane.
but I don't know
Right.
if it's actually going to do anything, or if that's the only time we see it. But I hope for the best.
I would imagine it'll come into play again. I mean,
Yeah.
this is we're
And they're
we're
building
not
schools
even
out.
halfway
He wants to
through
build
this
schools elsewhere.
series. Yeah, I like it though. A lot of good stuff going on in that school,
Yeah.
and a lot of leveling up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have chosen one person in specific, and that would have been good. But
I don't need to choose one person.
You don't.
No,
You
you
don't.
don't.
There was a
You
printing
choose
press there.
Someone
teasing
who
And then
knows.
there's also the guy that we met before, and then there's also the Tesla coil that seems to be created.
Right.
all good stuff. That wraps up episode 4 of season 2. Join us for chapters 19 through 24 of The Lord of Chaos. Until then, may you rest in the Creator's hand.
May you know good hunting, young bull, and she's to give you many cubs.
Doviande Setovius again.
Hey,